Oh. Oh. Hello. A streamy from Phoebe. Indeed. What's up, Arya? What's up, BB gun? Airsoft. What a name. I'm not judging. I'm not, being mean. Just saying, what a name. Hello, Ibrahim. You doing okay? I could be better. But here I am for another couple hours. Of entertainment for the people who do like me. Hey Phoebe, I'm 24 and having a rough time. Any advice? It depends on what you're having a rough time because of. Are you having a rough time because you recently got drafted into the Ukrainian army? Or are you having a rough time because you can't afford to pay your bills? Or are you having a rough time because you got rejected in a relationship or something? It just depends. Hi, Ozzy. Is there anything you'd like to get off your chest? I don't know, it'd be useful or helpful to talk about. Not really much I can do about it. Maybe we'll talk about it, I don't know. Lonely, poor, disconnected, bad job. Well, what area of the country do you live in? Phoebe sounds sad tonight? Oh no. That obvious, huh? Alabama? Yeah. Well, one of the best things that you can do is try and orchestrate your life such that you can get to a bigger city, even if you are staying within a rural southern state. Living in a bigger city will at least give you more resources and opportunities than you would have in a rural area. So if you're living in rural Alabama, I'd say try and get yourself down to Mobile or up to Huntsville or something. The other thing I'd say is look for a better job. And I know that sounds trite, and you probably already are, but look for jobs that seem unconventional. And if you've got any employment agencies around you and you're pretty good at staying employable, then maybe check with one of those employment agencies, because every so often they actually have placements that pay pretty well. Even if they don't necessarily have one on offer, they are usually networking with other employers in your area, and so sometimes you're able to find connections and opportunities you wouldn't have been able to find otherwise. Thank you for streaming tonight, Phoebes. I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys are basically what I have for socialization these days. It's one of the bad things about living in the country. Yeah, I just don't know how to talk about it with you guys because it's just like there are certain things that happen in life that if you are making content online, especially if you're making a living off of the content you make online, you're heavily incentivized against talking about certain things, and this is just one of those things that it would not benefit me to talk about. I don't know that it would damage anything. It would not benefit me to talk about it, and I don't know that it would emotionally benefit me in any way. So it's just like, do I talk about it and risk keeping the stream at 15 viewers the whole time because I'm kvetching about my own fucking bullshit? Or do I try and force that manic energy so that you guys will have the normal experience of a Phoebe stream? I don't know. I usually mess with people, but keep your head up. Normally these chats are full of people hating and being mean and being all kinds of rude and stuff, and it doesn't really bother me, but tonight's definitely one of those nights where I would probably just read it in flat silence, so definitely not going to get the entertaining kind of push-pull dynamic you normally get trolling somebody out of me tonight. Okay, so I had someone that I was talking to, and we hadn't talked like a ton, but we'd been talking for like a week, and I was really looking forward to hanging out with them, smoking. And maybe even hooking up. And things were going great, and I thought that the vibes were real good and everything. And then finally, we made plans, not like super long, drawn out plans, but, around like 8 p.m. tonight, I was like, hey, if you want us to hang out tonight, I could totally do that. We could totally do that at some point. And she was like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Well, it was actually earlier than that, but then at some point she sent me a snap of, her location, and it was in my same town, and I was like, oh, you're in the neighborhood. And she was like, yeah, and we decided we were going to hang out. I was like, okay, let me get myself cleaned up, and let me kind of tidy things up a little bit, kind of pick up my bedroom and this room out here. And she was like, okay, that's fine. And then about an hour later, I was ready to have her come over, so she did. And she got parked and got out of the car, and it was awkward from the very beginning. I don't normally experience this, but then again, I don't normally meet people for the first time. Obviously, we knew each other online a little bit, but I don't normally meet people for the first time at my house, and I don't normally do it at night. But it's another trans girl, so I'm like, what the fuck is the danger in that? I'm more likely to get struck by lightning than I am to get assaulted by her, so. But it was awkward almost immediately, and I could not perceive why. But we started going down the driveway and everything, and then I started coming up here because we talked about smoking, and I don't smoke in the house. I mean, I'll smoke a cigarette in the house or whatever when my kid's not around. Whenever he's with his other mom, I'll smoke a cigarette in the house, and that's fine. But, I live with people who don't smoke weed, and I don't want anybody asking questions about it either way. you know, and I don't want there to be residual smoke smell sticking to him or his clothes or anything like that. So I don't smoke weed in the house, as a rule. I don't. I don't even bring my weed in the house. I keep it out here in my little studio, or my secondary studio, or whatever you want to call it. And she was like, oh, you want me to follow you in there? I was like, yep. And we came up here, and pretty much immediately after she walked in, she got this, like, horrified look on her face. And not, like, super horrified, but she was just, like, looking around, and I could tell she was, like, uncomfortable. But I was trying to, like, salvage things. Already I was in that mode. I was like, all right, I don't know what's going on. But then she was like, what are the ants about? And I looked over, and then sure enough, there was a mess that I'd cleaned up earlier from, I had some wet cat food, but I had it sitting out in a place where the kitty could mess with it, which is never a good idea. If anybody that has cats knows that if you've got little disposable packages of wet cat food, you have to keep that shit in a cabinet or in a hard container or something where they can't get to it, because they'll mess with it, they'll fuck with it. And that had happened, and only one package had gotten into by her, and she didn't even really get into it. She clearly was just messing with the package at some point. Could have even just put her claw through it as she was running across it, I don't know. But I threw that one out, and then I took the trash out and cleaned out the trash can, all that shit. But by the time she got here, there were still some ants on the chair, which we weren't going to sit on. It's, like, obviously an unused chair. And eventually, like, I don't know, 5 minutes into me kind of, like, trying to, you know, like, I had expected her at some point to just, like, sit down and us to, you know, start talking and smoking and stuff. But then she was like, I'm, like, uncomfortable. And I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, so do you still want to hang out? And she was like, I think I'm just going to go home now. And I was like, just stunned as she, like, turned away and walked out. Because, like, I made sure that it didn't, like, smell any type of way in here. Because I got the kitty and I got her litter box in here. So sometimes, you know, like, hot day, humid day, sometimes it can end up smelling a little funky in here. But I made sure to air it out properly, to spray some Febreze. And I'm not nose blind. I can always tell whenever it stinks in here or smells normal. And I made sure that it smelled normal. The only thing I can think about is maybe the ants or the fact that it's kind of a small space where there's not, like, a whole lot of room. But, like, I mean, I kind of yelled out to her as she was walking away once I finally unstunned myself. I was like, well, we could hang out outside. Because I've got, like, 3 different areas outside that are set up for hanging out, too. But, like, I had to come in here to get my tray, and my first instinct was we'd smoke in here, so I don't know, it was just incredibly awkward. And she unadded me on Snap. She didn't block me on Snap as far as I can tell, but it's hard to tell if someone's blocked you on Snap. All she said was, I just could not chill out hanging in that, or I just could not be chill hanging out in that room, or something like that. It wasn't, like, a mean thing she said back or anything, but, like, the fact that she unadded me or blocked me or whatever means that I can't even figure out what it was. Like, maybe it's just that she's a little claustrophobic or nervous about meeting new people or something. Maybe. I don't know. If it's one of those things, okay, that's understandable. You know, there's nothing I can do about that. But if it's like she thinks, like, the room looks gross or something, I would like to know, because I really don't think it does. There's no clutter. I can show you guys what this room looks like. It's fucking clean. There's some messy aspects to it. There's some dirty aspects to it. But I feel like, does it really need to be dressed up to the nines to be, like, an acceptable place to hang out? Like, I've hung out in way nastier places than this little outbuilding. So that whole experience just set me on, like, a 2-hour-long just sitting in my silence and contemplating, listening to a YouTube video for 5 minutes, and then just sitting and contemplating again. Eventually I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna go ahead and stream, because maybe I'll be able to work some of these feelings out. I don't know. I think the worst about those things is not knowing exactly what it was, then what you can fix for the next time. Exactly. Because if it's just like, maybe this is just an outbuilding that's kind of awkward for other people to be in. I don't think it is. Like, I'll show you guys, there's nothing nasty about this room. There's some stuff that's unkempt about it, but not nasty. I'll show you guys, though. It's not, it's nothing for me to be embarrassed about. So, this is what it looks like where you guys sit. I'm not going to show you guys my weed tray, but it's behind my hand. So, you got, and this was all cleaned off, too, just so you know. Like, this whole side of the couch was completely cleaned off. And then this side, there's some remnants from where I had my tobacco bag and it spilled, but other than that, it's clean. You got some unfinished wall over here, my set light, which is as bright as the sun. Got the chair, and like some old lighters and shit, but nothing nasty. Old lighter, old lantern. You got just some random building materials and stuff like that from when it was still being outfitted to be more of a resident, like not a residence, but kind of like a tiny home kind of thing. A few years back, and then you got let's see here. Then you got back there, which I didn't even really see her look back here, so I don't even know if there's something that would disturb somebody. Besides that, for most of the time, I was standing pretty much right here. We've got the floor, which looks like an unfinished floor anywhere else. And then that back there, right? So, like, nothing too weird or gross yet, as far as I can tell. You got the area where I've got my kitty's food and water set up so that it doesn't get spread out all over the damn floor. Which I guess I probably do need to clean the sides of it at this point. Maybe that's kind of gross. Honestly, the worst looking part is right here, where some cats that I used to have, not Sissy, she's amazing, but some cats I used to have, or that my partner had, rather, my ex, they would claw the fuck out of that specific portion right there. You can kind of tell. There's some remnants of where I had the insulatory layer, and then there's just like the chair that Sissy's been using as a scratching post and a thing. Like, I just have it in here so I can throw it away at some point, basically. I just don't want to add to the fucking junk pile. You got this stuff down here. Fucking got the litter box with the litter on it, or behind it or in front of it or whatever. So I guess if you were like highly OCD, it could probably like disturb you, but she really didn't give me those vibes. But if that's the answer, I would just like to know it. I'm not going to judge her for that. I'm not going to be mad at her for that. I just want to know. It's not bad. It's a home. Well, it's not a home either. It's just an outbuilding. This is not where I live. This is just an outbuilding that I stream and smoke in, so I don't have to smoke inside in my house. My bedroom looks nice. My bedroom looks legit nice. There are parts of it that I need to go through and spackle, and the whole room needs to be repainted. But my room, my room, the actual room that I sleep in, looks nice and is impeccably clean. Pretty much at all times. Unless I've got the kiddo around, in which case it stays impeccably clean about 50% of the time. My house was made in the 70s. Oh, well, it looks similar. Well, this is, like I said, it's not a house. This particular building I'm sitting in right now is literally just an outbuilding that I stream in and smoke in. And as far as I know, it's like an office trailer that used to be used on construction sites or something. And it's had some improvements done since it's gotten here, but there's some stuff that needs to be redone. Like the drywall needs to be finished, and then there's some that over there that needs to be either redone or very creatively mudded. Still better than the last thing I watched. See, that's how you know you're making quality content. She might have had the situation go too fast and she chickened out. That's kind of what I'm wondering. I just want to know. And the fact that she mentioned the room specifically makes me wonder if it is something about this particular environment. But the fact that she didn't respond to what I said is making me think that you might be right, Ibrahim. That's why I'm talking to you guys about it eventually, I guess, in the end, is just because I want to kind of wonder, you know, I have to wonder. I can't help but wonder. That's basically all that's left to me at this point. And so, like, it could be that the room kind of set her mind going, and then she was like, you know, we're moving too fast, things are going too quickly. And because, like, if she was just genuinely disturbed by the room but was still interested in me, I would think that she'd be like, she would have walked back and been like, all right, okay, but I can't do that room. It's fucking creepy in there. And it could have been a funny moment. Like, if she was still into me and, or like still into the general idea of hanging out and stuff, I just feel like there's a way we could have done that. So it seems to me like it's a combination of multiple things, not just the room itself. Get some mental clarity, Phoebe. You never know if she might have had a trauma trigger from something you can't control. Well, yeah, that's what I'm wondering, right? Because there was a time in my life when I don't know if I would have been able to hang out in a room. Like when I was like a teenager, I went through a time in my life in my late teens where I kind of became a little bit of a neat freak. I couldn't stand to be in a room that had like ants crawling around anywhere in it. And that was because, as I kind of found out last night, talking to some friends on Discord, I didn't really have the most attentive parents when it came to cleanliness, and as a result, I ended up kind of living with a bunch of ant infestations, mice infestations a number of times, and at one point, the ants got so bad that it became like a constant ongoing battle, pretty much no matter what I was doing. And so I can understand, like, hey, maybe she's got some, like, maybe it was that, or maybe it was some other feature of the room that I haven't been able to identify. Who the fuck knows? Hey, Seven Lilies. Here, let me do some little housekeeping things for the stream. This should make things work. There we go. That should make things a little bit more readable. Phoebe, I would like to greatly apologize for the other night. The power went out of my house, and we just got it figured out earlier today. Sorry if my abrupt disappearance disrespected you. I'm sorry. No. Your abrupt disappearance was inexplicable, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. But when you just disappeared from the chat and everything else entirely, I just moved the conversation on to something else eventually because we gave it like 10 or 15 minutes. We talked about the topic and stuff after you dropped out. You can go watch the stream if you want to. It's still up as far as I know. But once I noticed that you had dropped out of chat and Discord, I was like, well, either they're really salty or something happened, like an emergency or something. So let's just not worry about it. They can always come in at another time and clarify. Now everyone rushes to subscribe to keep spewing molten garbage. I know. The most hateful, reprehensible chat on YouTube. According to one of the only other people I would consider qualified to make that distinction. So, if a drunken peasant says you've got the most reprehensible chat on YouTube, you do. Of course, DP's chat, honestly, now is tame as shit, but I remember the 2016 DP chats. Your girl's old. I remember that shit. Good to see you. Yeah, for sure. There were some absolute insane individuals in this particular chat situation. There were indeed. I was arguing on YouTube live chat, and all of a sudden stuff sort of blowing up. I'm talking way too fast. I was talking on YouTube live chat, and all of a sudden stuff started blowing up. What do you think about that, Arya? Dun 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 dun. Oh, fuck yeah, you wonderful, salt-smelling manatee. I want to fuck you in the brains. Anyone who's been watching recent Drunken Peasants or DFF content will get these references. If you haven't been, then you're probably not gonna. Thanks for talking about that, Phoebe. I'd like to talk to you about it, but I'm not sure how to discuss it over stream chat. I mean, yeah, we can talk about it over stream chat if you want to. I don't have any problem with that. Or I can hop into VC. I hope that you know that you're very interesting, and I would love to hang out with you, especially face to face. Hey, I appreciate it. That's the thing. That's what weirds me out about it, is I've had people that know me, that hang out with me, that chill with me in this chat, who've seen this room, over the internet at least, say that, you know, flaws and all, they would still love to hang out with me in person at some point. So it makes me think that, like, it's gotta be something more particular. So I'm trying not to get too in my feelings about it. But I'll be honest, I've experienced a lot more success than rejection in my life, so I don't handle it super well. I mean, I handle it better than some people. I don't, like, totally freak out, but it does make me pretty depressed. They're just sitting there insulting the piss out of you. Yeah. It's so hard to not be in your feelings when it first happens. Talking about it helps. I love the tea. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really don't, like, I thought about it, and at first I was like, I don't want to talk about it. What benefit is that going to have for me? But I guess the views says it's got some benefit. The other thing I thought about is, like, ultimately, there's nothing really embarrassing about it. It's not like anything criminal or worse than awkward happened. It's just an awkward moment. You know, what's the worst that happens? YouTuber Phoebe Ophi roasts herself for awkward moment. You know? I love doing Brett Keen bits in your chat. You're the best, Phoebe. Thanks. Yeah. I think that there's a lot of, like, manatee content loving DFF and DP fans who kind of see me as like an orbital kind of unofficial cast member that knows all the tropes and all the jokes and references, so I can usually, like, make some hay out of it as well. So it's like, even if Paul tires of the Brett Keen shit, folks can always come over to my channel and make jokes about it, and I'll play along. TBH, my partner and I have joked about inviting you to visit us in California. The whole parasocial thing, though, LOL, but we own 40 acres and have 800 square foot of rental space. Oh, don't tempt me. Stuff like that is genuinely appealing to me because, like, to me, you know, I've looked into this, like, phenomenon of parasocial relationships, and I make the argument that a relationship with a streamer or something like that can be parasocial, and sometimes it can actually be somewhat of a social relationship. Now, it's still uneven in nature, but I think there needs to be a better word for it than a parasocial relationship, because the word parasocial implies like a one-sided connection, whereas I know you, Dom, like, we've talked in chat a bunch. I don't know if I'd remember, like, a bunch of specific facts about your life, But if we made some plan to hang out, that'd certainly be part of it, probably. And I already definitely want to do meetups of my own, where I rent out a venue and play some music and then hang out with the people. I want to do that so bad once my channel gets big enough and I've got a big enough community. So I've got just as much desire to hang out with my community as many people from my community have to hang out with me. It's not necessarily a parasocial desire, at least, within the context of this particular community. You see a good part of who people are? Yeah, I would agree. Especially when you're like, are you saying me in particular or what? Are you saying me in particular? You're saying, like, when people are live streaming, you're able to see a lot of what goes on in their life. I'm not sure. You'll have to clarify. I still cringe at my own awkward moments, but they don't ever hurt me in any way. Exactly, I feel like it's something I could get very worried about and upset about, but what would be the point? What benefit would that have to me, sitting here worrying about it all night and thinking, what could I have done differently? Maybe I'll find something I could have done differently, but who knows? Maybe it's something I really couldn't control. Like, who knows? Maybe even the level of cleanliness that is in my house would have been too much for her. Like, you really just do not know. People come from all kinds of different backgrounds, and some people are just, like, I have met some people that are not even OCD, but that are so used to a certain, like, level of income and wealth. Like, they're so used to being in those circles that, like, the first time they hang out with someone who has grown up in poverty and is comfortable with the signs of poverty and shit and is like less materialistic in that way, it can make them really uncomfortable. Not even because they're obsessive and compulsive, but because they were raised in an environment where they were taught to see any kind of misplaced thing or badly laid out clutter, or like I said, it's not like there's garbage laying around in here everywhere. It's not like there's cat turds scattered across the floor. But it's cluttered in the sense that I've got stuff kind of just sitting in places. I don't have everything put away into a closet or nicely stacked into a corner that makes it all aesthetically tie together. There are elements of the room that are unfinished and stuff. And I could imagine how somebody that's grown up in like a pretty even state of like middle class life might be bothered by hanging out in a decrepit old outbuilding like this. Oh yes, please drain. Please, train, by all means. Honk all the way from the fucking other crossing. Please. Why don't you just spend the whole trip honking? Just lay on the horn. Jesus Christ. Want to move out of this fucking shithole to somewhere that's not near a fucking train. TBH, I see having a messy room is kind of normal. My room is filled with stuff that I just kind of put wherever I feel like it. To me, I get kind of uncomfortable, like I can get uncomfortable by a certain level of filth, for sure. Like if this room gets dirty and shit, like stuff, like whatever. I've got a cat in here, I've got the litter box and stuff, so she'll knock litter out of it sometimes. Stuff will get tracked, like dust and shit will get tracked off the surfaces and onto the ground, and after it goes like a week without me having not swept it, I start to feel a little, not uncomfortable maybe isn't the right word, but So I get that. And I'm not really talking about. See, that's the thing, right? I'm not the kind of person who, at this point in my life, I don't let my room get to the point where it's like the whole floor is covered in clothes and garbage and shit like that. I've got a trash can in my room specifically so that whenever I'm done with something and need to throw it away, I can just throw it away real quick in a trash can that's right there and available to me. So I keep a pretty fucking clean room. The same is true of this outbuilding. And the level of clutter or unfinishedness doesn't bother me because I grew up in pretty extreme poverty where, like, I just never really lived in a house that didn't have some element of that. Like, there's even parts of my house that I live in right now that have parts that are unfinished, technically, and that maybe aren't to the same degree as being unfinished as this space is. But I think because of that, like because of how I grew up and because of the standards that were kind of like set in my mind as to what to look for and be okay with, etc., in a hangout spot or a domicile or whatever, I just don't necessarily, I don't know if I've got the same outlook on it that a lot of other people do. Like, my room isn't dirty, but it's kind of filled with books and stuff for arts and craft. Probably the most dirty area is the litter box corner, which I clean every other day. Yeah, so that means, okay, we are talking about the same thing. And yeah, that kind of thing doesn't bother me at all. I like clutter that is easy to walk around and that doesn't impede, like, the smell or look or whatever. Like, if you've got lots of bookshelves and they're all filled with books and you've got some curio cabinets and stuff, I like that type of shit. Like, my bedroom has a whole chair, like an old Queen Anne chair that I saw somebody throwing away, so I rescued it, and I just have it as my stuffy chair, because it's not actually that good a chair, but it is good for putting all my stuffies on. My whole stuffy collection lives on that chair, and it's part of the set now, and whenever I'm streaming on desktop and I'm in my room and shit, and it's kind of got, like, a bit of a, I don't know if you'd say cluttered kind of look to it or just kitschy kind of look to it, but it's definitely not, as neat, even, and organized as some displays I've seen on the planet. And I'm okay with that. I like it. And, I feel like that this room is more utilitarian and less decorated, except for this portion, but it's still not what I would consider nasty by any means. It's just unfinished and a little dirty in spots. Like, I swept it before she came over. I did a bunch of, like, cleaning and tidying up to make sure that it looked nice, but I guess I didn't do enough. Maybe I should have, I hid one of the heaters, but maybe I should have hid both of the heaters. Because I've got two different heaters out here that I keep out here just to keep them out of the house and out of the way. And because I end up using one of them out here every winter. So it just makes sense to store them both out here. But maybe I should have put those away and then taken that little piece of drywall that I took out of my kid's room. Maybe I should have taken that out to the scrap pile or something. I don't know. Part of me feels like, and this is the conflict I'm having, right? Part of me feels like, because so many people I've shown this space to, and I've hung out with lots of different people in here before, because all that has happened pretty much uneventfully, I am left with the distinct impression that there is probably very little I could have done to make this an acceptable hangout spot for us. Like, there's pretty much nothing I could have done. The only thing I can think maybe would have made it more possible or more appealing is if I got it completely finished out and so it felt like a lot more homey and shit. But, I couldn't achieve that level of effort in one night, much less in an hour, so it is what it is. I don't feel as bad about it now as when I started, so I guess that's progress. Did something happen with a visitor? Yeah, I had somebody over that I'd been, talking with them for like a week. Another trans girl from down here, and we were gonna smoke together and maybe hook up and stuff like that. And I don't know. They came in here, didn't really say anything for like 2 minutes, and I was kind of like trying to prompt them, like, hey, sit down, make yourself at home, and then they're like, I'm uncomfortable. And when I asked them, on Tinder, or not Tinder, when I asked them on Snap, like, I was like, I don't know what to say. And they just responded back like, sorry, I just could not be chill in that room. And that's all they said. And then they unfriended me. So I don't even know if it was like a situation where like it's them and they're like what they're accustomed to, or maybe there was some weird smell that I didn't notice, but they did. I don't know. Do you think it could have been the pentagram? Very much doubt it. Very much doubt it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if low light would have made it better. I think low light would have made it worse. I think this light actually is benefited from more light, because like in this amount of light that it's bathed in right now, it looks more clinical and less. I don't know how to put it. It doesn't look as unkempt. But in low light, I mean, depending on how low the light is, it almost makes it look more creepy. It turns it from, a clearly unfinished outbuilding that is used for streaming and smoking into what is this weird creepy basement. So, not always. It doesn't always make a space more comfortable. Take a cemetery, for example. Cemetery. Not that unsettling in the daytime, right? Not very unsettling. But in the nighttime, when you've just got the light of the moon and whatever tomb decorations there may be, and maybe a street light or two, all of a sudden a cemetery becomes terrifying. Whenever my friends come over, I usually try to clean my room enough so it doesn't look so cluttered, because my one friend has a very messy room. My other friend has probably the cleanest room ever. Yeah, like, that's the thing. I did tidy up, both in here and in my room, because I wasn't sure where we'd ultimately end up hanging out. I wasn't even sure if we'd need to hang out in here, but we didn't get far enough. Like, if she'd, if she had sat down and we'd had a conversation, and like a minute or two into rolling the blunt, she was like, I really don't feel that comfortable in here. Is there any way like we could move this outside or something when we got done smoking? I would have been like, oh yeah, no, for sure, yeah, definitely, yeah, no reason we can't, yeah, for sure. And that it would have been great. Maybe we could have even had some good laughs about it. I don't. Now I'll never know. Yeah. I grew up middle class with a mom that is a clean freak. TBH, the room looks very aesthetically different than I'm used to, but it's still cleanly. Might just be a difference in expectations. She should have communicated better, in my opinion. Yeah, I don't necessarily blame her or anything, but I do think it's one of those instances where better communication would have been appreciated, for sure. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that like maybe she grew up in a very middle class household with parents that were really tidy. I've hung out with people like that, and some of those people inherit that same sensibility. Many of them do, and some people don't. You know, some people go the exact opposite way. And then other people are raised by pretty dirty parents and they end up going the opposite way. You know, like if it were up to me and money was not an object, like honestly, I'll tell you guys this right now. Hopefully within a year, you know, provided that audience support keeps up and you guys keep watching the content and everything, I will be moving from this much less aesthetically appealing kind of environment into a different outbuilding that is going to be specifically set up from like the ground up, basically, to be my shooting area and my smoking area. And I think that people will be willing to go in there and hang out a lot more, and I think I know for a fact it'll be something I'm able to actually like do and make look nice, if that makes sense. Because in here, like honestly, even if I did try and turn this into my studio, like number one, this thing does not have electricity ran out to it. I just have an extension cord out here with extra plugs at the end. So I would have to dig a trench and run a cable from the junction box out here. Whereas there's already like a hefty line running from the junction box out to the outbuilding that I'm going to be using. And that one has no drywall, no room dividers, no nothing. It's like once I get all the stuff that we've been storing in there out and shit and get it moved into the other shed, it will be it'll be something I can use and build like from the ground up, like I said, over the course of a month or two, into like an air conditioned, comfortable area to exist in. Honestly, I don't understand why people judge unfinished rooms. For the longest time, my uncle's downstairs hasn't been finished and still isn't finished, but nobody in the family really cares about it. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Nobody really cares about it if it's like a basement or if it's like there are certain aspects in which people think it's almost like cool, but then there's other times they don't. And that's the thing. Like, I don't want to make our entire stream about this event because it's not that interesting, but, that's the other thing. Like, what if she's just the kind of person that's just like we said, very strict kind of expectations as to aesthetic and finishedness. Some people don't even want to hang out in a basement. Meanwhile, me, I love to hang out in a partially finished basement. To me, it's like super fun to hang out in a basement that somebody hasn't like finished out all the way, but they've made a few specific areas into really cool, chill hangout spots. I love that shit. Can you ask her for feedback? I did, but she either blocked me on Snap or unadded me, so she's not going to see my messages. Yeah, who knows? Not me. Anyway, I'm going to go use the bathroom. Y'all donate to the Phoebe Heartbreak Fund. A divergent combination of your familiar spaces being normalized to you and being alien to her. Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much, I think, exactly what it is, honestly, Nambot. I can't think of a more poignant way to put it. I think it's just an instance of I'm used to squalor. I'll just be honest with you guys. I wouldn't consider this room the height of squalor. I've hung out in rooms and spaces that were a hell of a lot nastier and even less finished than this space is. But I can recognize that to a lot of people, like even if you take the whole property as a whole, I live in squalor. And I don't want to. In fact, my biggest goal right now, like my 5-year plan kind of goal, is to, by the end of 5 years, to have like bought property outside of Mississippi that will allow me to retain the sense that I have ownership over what I'm doing and ownership over my life, but that will allow me to also not live in fucking squalor like I have my entire life. Because I don't necessarily like it. There are aspects to it that I find miserable, but it's also so familiar to me that it doesn't really bother me, all other things being equal. I mean, there are times when I'm actually, like, because of how used to I am to poverty and deprivation, there are times when, when I've just been paid and I've just gotten my re-up and everything. I've, I've taken a perk and I'm fucking got stocked up on liquor and everything else. And I'm out here talking to you guys and just thinking about how fucking cool it is that I stream for a living and that I've got this outbuilding I can do it in. And that is kind of an example of the low benchmark that is set when you've grown up in abject poverty. Just the fact that we've got something like this on the property and I'm able to get some electricity out to it and keep it relatively clean feels like a win to me. It feels like success on some level to me, even if it's not enough. And I've still got things I want to improve about it even while I'm here. But to someone else, it might just look like any other broke dick motherfucker, barely making it. Squalor, by the way, Aria, just so you know, or Aurora, I should say, Aurora, squalor spelled in that, used in this context, squalor is spelled Squualor. Squualar, I believe. Or no, Alor. What had occurred? Oh no, I gotta go through the whole thing again. Give me 1 second. Oh, okay, so basically the Cliff Notes version, Taylor, is that I invited somebody over that I've been talking to for like a week, somebody from down here, obviously. They sent me a snap saying they were in the neighborhood, so we were going to hang out, and I came in here so that we could, if not hang out in here, then at least we could, roll the blunt in the light and everything, even if we were going to end up smoking outside or whatever. I told her, like, I can't smoke in the house because this and that reason. But, like, she kind of didn't seem comfortable, and I kind of got the impression that she was already maybe, like, trying to leave. And then, how, like, once you go into a space and that's where you're going to hang out, you kind of, like, try and, like, this is going to sound so autistic, but you know, people will like kind of gesture with their body language and their kind of vibe. Like, okay, now this is where we are. You should sit down and we will begin conversation. And I will sit down and we will begin conversation. And maybe it was just like the awkwardness of me not sitting down at first. Like maybe I should have, and that would have made things less hostile. But I don't know. Anyway, like 2 minutes of silence from her with me kind of like awkwardly like explaining the room that we're in and telling her about like, oh, this is where I stream and smoke at, so I don't smoke in the house and stuff. And she was like, I'm uncomfortable. I think I'm like in this room. And I was like, oh, and I was kind of like just taken aback. I didn't really know what to say. So I was like, do you still want to hang out? And she was like, I think I might just go home. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just sat there in stunned silence for like 10 seconds. And then I was like, we could still hang out outside. I didn't really know what else to fucking say. And then I texted her on Snap. I was like, I said that. I said, I don't know what to say. And she was like, I just could not be chill in that room. And that was it. Then she blocked me on Snap or unadded me. I'm not sure. And so the conversation we're having basically centers around, is she a person that was raised like middle class with neat freak parents that is just very used to finished, housey kind of spaces that are very comfortable? Or is it like the size of this room and she's kind of claustrophobic? Or was it some weird smell that I didn't notice but that she did? Like, is it me or her, basically, is what we're getting into. And there's really no way to judge that or be sure. Okay, I don't know why this thing just died. That's weird. Oh my god, whatever. Yeah, I guess I have to plug in my gimbal. I don't know why it's dying. I fucking charged it up. Nah, it was her. You think so, Paul? Also, shout out to Paul Zigo. If you guys haven't subscribed to him yet, you should. I'm perfectly willing to accept that it may have been me, or that it may be some element of this room. I keep it clean, I keep it maintained and stuff, you know? Like, I try to make sure that despite the fact that I got the kitty out here, and that there's a litter box, I try to make sure that it doesn't smell or anything like that. So I don't want to think that it's me, but I'm perfectly open to that possibility. 100%. What makes you so sure? Because I'm really in my head about it. Because, like, honestly, this is the first time since the breakup that I've tried to break back into the dating scene. And this is not a great first start. She was just rude and shitty. I mean, that's kind of how I feel. Like, that's the part of my heart that's kind of like heartbroken at how well these conversations were going, and then how awkward meeting was once. That's the dominant narrative outside of that part of my brain. But then there's this other part of my brain that is incredibly self-critical and, in my opinion, somewhat self-regulatory, that's saying, what if it was you, Phoebe? What if you did something? Or what if it was some aspect of your body language, or the way you went about it, or even your presentation, which I don't think so. I honestly think I look kind of pretty today. I made sure to comb my hair and everything, so... I hate getting all in my head about shit like this too, because it doesn't go away quickly. And now for the next like 2 weeks, whenever I set up anything like this, it's going to be one of the thoughts that runs through my head, and I'm going to be extra on guard. But then there's this logical part that says, well, you don't want to do that because then you're going to be overcompensating. Can I see your stream room? That might be too private. We went through it earlier, but yeah, I'll show you guys. It's unfinished. which is the worst thing I can say about it. But yeah, I'll look through it. Don't stay in your head about it. You dodged a bullet. I mean, hey, true enough. If it turns out that she's like somebody that is used to that kind of thing and that has grown up and those kinds of standards, and that's something that she would maintain in a relationship, I mean, that's just not something that I'm probably going to be able to provide. Not because I don't want to, but because even when I do be able to provide it, I imagine there's still going to be parts of my property that are going to be a bit redneck and hayseed in nature, just because that's how I was raised. But yeah, I will show you guys the room I'm streaming in, just so you guys have an impression of what we're talking about here. So this is this is the opposite view from where it's normally pointing. Thanks for showing. I really appreciate your vulnerability and realness. Yeah, no, I mean, I like to think that part of what I do for a living is being vulnerable. So I'm not going to show you guys my weed tray, but it's right behind there, right behind my hand. Then you got another light there. You got my set light. And this is the worst looking part of the room, honestly. It's just all this unfinished shit. You got my vest hanging up on the lamp back there so it stays off the ground and as like spider free as I can keep it. I've got some white stuff kind of covering part of the walls to kind of try and reflect as much of that light back towards my direction as possible. You got this back here, like an old mattress I threw away, an old cage, carpet that's been folded up. You know, it's not like there's a bunch of garbage on the floor or anything, but there's an unfinished floor. A spill or a stain. I can't tell if that's a spill or a stain. I didn't spill anything there, so it must be a stain. And you guys pretty much already see what's behind me. You guys already see this stuff. But, turn back around. I've got the kitties' food and water set up in an old terrarium with the lid off, so that way it all stays basically in one place, even if she kind of knocks it out of the tray or whatever. And an old piece of drywall that I took out of my kids' room. I didn't really know what to do with it other than just break it apart into smaller pieces and throw it away. But I didn't want to just throw it away in a regular trash bag, so I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'll just put it with the other drywall until I find, until there's a bulk trash pickup day or something like that. You got Kitty sitting right over there, doing life with Violet. I can see you, just so you know. I'm just, we're caught up in another conversation right now. You got, cat food sitting over there, the litter box behind all this stuff. My purse, litter box container, chair that she's been using as a scratching post on a bed. It's just an old garbage chair that I had before I upgraded my chair. Some old unused drywall, some unfinished ceiling, fly trap. There you go. It's like my brother's smoke shed from my dad's house. Well, that's the thing. That's another reason why I kind of think Paul might be right. And some other folks that have kind of made the same argument might be right, is because, the more I think about it, this room is not functionally any different from the garage in the rented house that me and Taylor used to rent, that all of us would smoke in all the time. In fact, I would argue, more finished than that garage was in some ways. It's not any different from any of the dozen or so smoking sheds that I've hung out with somebody in over the last 20 years of my life and smoked weed in. It's not really any that, all that different from, I've hung out in dozens of flop houses and shit that were way off, or way worse off, structurally and cleanliness-wise, than this room is. So if it's on me, I'll say this much, I guess. If it's on me, then I invite her to tell me what I can improve about this room to make it more of a good hangout spot, or what I could improve about my body language to make me a more approachable person. But until that happens, I'm going to assume that it was some weird aspect of her psychology and not something I did. I think if you told her, come to the smoke shed, this is not out of the realm, I wonder if that would have made a difference. I wonder if that would have made a difference. Like if I told her on Snap, yeah, I would love to hang out. Just so you know, we're gonna be hanging out in my smoke shed. I wonder if that, like, could that have prepared her mind for a different situation? Maybe. I would like to think so. Also, I'm gonna real quick while I'm thinking about it. I don't know if Paul's still in here, but I made him a mod so that way if he happens to pop in at a time when chat's popping off, that way he doesn't get caught up in a timeout or a ban if he makes a joke in chat or something. That's something that's something I kind of stole from him that I now pretty much do for anybody that is someone I trust and is like a known quantity that I don't want getting banned, because it's pretty much the only way you can do it. I wish you could. YouTube should really introduce a whitelisting feature. That way, if somebody doesn't want any of the implications timed out, like they can still be hidden maybe, but they can't be timed out. I don't know. Something I could suggest to YouTube through their suggest a feature thing. But who knows? They probably have AI categorize that like they do all the reports. A big pet peeve is when people don't like something but can't articulate what is wrong. Like, I want to fix it, but you won't tell me. Yeah, that is one of my biggest pet peeves too. And I've often, whenever I've voiced this complaint, I am always met with the same criticism. Phoebe, nobody owes you a goddamn thing. Why does somebody owe you an explanation? And I'm like, fuck, I don't guess you owe me one, but it would be nice. Like, if you want people's behavior to improve, which I think we should all want that on some level, like, I have never denied someone an explanation of my problems with them. In fact, I'm usually quite happy to tell them. I'm usually more than happy to rant for a long time about the problems I've got with somebody. So when somebody is resistant to just sharing, like, that's the thing. Like, if I made her uncomfortable, lay on me. I can handle it. I've got thick skin. You're not, like, my heart is more broken from how good the conversations we were having were, and then how awkward the thing was without any further explanation, than it would be if she just totally went off on me. And this is only also the second time that this has ever happened in my life. Every other time I've ever been, like, rejected, it was like a non-issue. It was like somebody that I was crushing on that was a friend of mine, and when I told them about how I feel, they were like, oh, well, I don't really feel the same way about you, but that's very sweet. And I was like, I kind of figured that was how you were gonna feel, but, you know, whatever. I mean, nothing has to change, so. And that's pretty much how it's gone. And sometimes I was a little heartbroken for a while, and sometimes they were able to articulate a good reason, and sometimes it just came down to, you know, like, whatever. Like, in some cases, it's just been like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm straight, you know? Like, if I'm crushing on one of my femme friends, and it turns out, like, they're not into, like, other women, and so it doesn't work out. But, it's only one other time in my life have I hung out with somebody, and that time it was even worse. I will say the last time this happened to me, it was even worse because the last time it happened, we had so much fun hanging out, and I genuinely thought we were having a blast, and then just all of a sudden out of nowhere, she was like, I gotta go deal with this friend who's having an emergency. She's very vague about it. And by the time I got in my car and looked to see if she was on Snap, she had blocked me. So I was like, what happened there? We had such a fun time, and I never got an explanation. She never hit me back up. I've never matched with her on social media since then. So I guess, you know, or on dating apps or whatever. So I don't know. Never gonna know. I don't even remember her name, though, at this point. So it's like, when Paul says I dodged a bullet, that's kind of why I'm like, maybe you're right. Because, on the other hand, if I had developed some kind of relationship with either of these people, and then had it end horribly abruptly, I'd be thinking about it for a lot longer. As it is, I'll probably forget about this girl, within a month or two, and my confidence will be restored. Phoebe, I've gone on dates with girls that I thought were great and then they ghost me, lol. Yeah, I know. Like, that's the thing. You never really know. And that's, I think, what bothers everybody. If there's one common thread we can detect in all of this, it's that we are all bothered by that. People are just strange sometimes. One time I went on a date and this guy picked me up, and shortly after dinner started, he told me his dad was in the hospital, so he had to leave and blocked me. What the fuck? Like, what the heck? Why do people do stuff like that? I don't know. I will say, big shout out to Paul's ego, not just for coming in the chat and participating and being a cool cat, but also for being a kind friend in a moment when I needed it. I hate it when shit like this happens, but I also feel like it's important to point out that it is the wise words of trusted friends like Taylor, Matt, Paul, people like that are able to keep me, and this is true of you too, any of you guys who are out there, your friends are like this too. These are the people who keep you grounded. These long-term connections, people acquaintances, friendships, besties, varying levels that they exist at. Those are the people who keep you grounded, who are able to give you the perspective that sometimes you lack. So that's cool. Paul and Amelia are both just such cool fucking people. Love them. You guys need to sub to Paul's Ego's channel if y'all ain't already. I absolutely love stimulating conversations, but I guess I'm a rare breed because I don't meet too many other people like that. Yeah, I mean, I love stimulating conversations. That was one of the reasons why I was having so much fun, like last night with Elle from chat. Like, she is just fascinating and incredibly smart. And it's the same reason I enjoy having conversations with Paul or Taylor, because they are both, razor sharp and have a lot to say about a lot of interesting topics. Same reason I like talking to TJ, or, like, for that matter, some of my members and shit. Like, there are people just that are members in here and shit that have interesting things to say all the time. Hello, girl. You okay today? I don't want to go over it for the umpteenth time, but yeah, we're doing meh. Speaking of Phoebe, I am in your voice chat. Okay, Matt. I'll pop in there in a minute. Like, you ain't got to see me again, but we could just finish the dinner and go. I know, right? I don't get it. I'm never going to get it. Maybe Matt has some thoughts to add. I guess I'll pop into my voice chat and see. I love having conversations with people because I talk way too much. It's funny you say that because I am the same way, and it reminds me of this test I took yesterday. I can't remember if it was the narcissism test or which one it was, but there was a test I took yesterday, and one of the questions was, when you are in a conversation, do you often feel like it's hard for you to know what your turn is, or something like that? And just instantly I was like, nope. No. And Matt pretty much was like, yep, exactly. I knew it. Matt was like, I don't know. Let me join the chat and I'll ask him. You called me a motor mouth, didn't you? Whenever that question came up?
Yesterday?
Yeah, whenever the question about, whenever you're in a conversation, do you ever find it difficult to know what turn it is for you? And I was like...
Yes.
Right. I think the way I put it was, not only do I not have a problem with it, here's how I look at it. When I'm in a conversation, my turn is whenever I choose to open my fat ass mouth to say some words out of it. That's when my turn is. My turn is now, and in a minute, and 2 minutes ago, and as I continue to talk.
I have struggled with this in my adult life because a lot of people were like, "Don't talk over me. That's rude." I'm like, what am I supposed to talk? I don't understand.
Well, that's the thing. That's where I developed that same habit from. Was I grew up in a family of motor mouths, and I quickly developed a friend group of motor mouths. So I just figured out, like, sometimes conversations, like, whenever, like, sometimes, okay, I like to think I'm adaptable. Every so often, I will encounter somebody who is very good at that, I talk for a little bit, you talk for a little bit, back and forth kind of thing. But then you'll get into conversation where you basically have to interrupt them, and you basically have to, it's like a balancing act between you gish galloping and you interrupting their gish gallops, and them gish galloping and them interrupting your gish gallops. Those can be very frustrating conversations, but I am very well equipped for them.
Right. Well, it's like a combination for me of, like, one, I don't know when to interject, and second, I don't want to be rude. So it's kind of those two things combined that makes it really hard for me.
Would someone mind posting the... Oh, I'm so sorry, Tay. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. That doesn't offend me. I guess I don't understand it, because, like, when there's multiple people talking, how could you not just have to, like, interject? Like, we're gonna go rounds, like, Matt, Phoebe, me, Matt, Phoebe, me. I don't understand.
Well, I think
if only it was that easy.
I think that the only time it kind of works is, like, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but I feel like, having listened to as much, like, conversational content as I have, I've kind of noticed that there is a way to structure a sentence so that people know at the end of it that you are done, and that you are ready for them to add their thoughts, like I just did.
Right.
But not everyone...
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, not everyone is... And it's also hard over Discord, because I don't like someone that's trying to, like, talk over me or whatever. But interruptions are natural, I think, in the flow of a conversation, especially with some of those contexts we've already mentioned. Fuck, I don't remember exactly what I was going to say. Sorry.
Turn you down just a little bit.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I just feel like maybe it doesn't register to me because growing up we all just did speak, and we were all, like, excited and passionate about what we were speaking about, so we just spoke whenever it felt like the right times. Like, we didn't wait for somebody to, like, 100% finish. Like, it was just kind of like the conversation naturally flowed to me.
Right. Well, maybe it's just maybe it's just Discord then, because, like, I have a hard time, like, telling when somebody is done talking, especially Phoebe, because she has a lot to say.
Are you saying I'm a motor mouth, Matt?
Yeah.
A little bit.
That's not a bad thing.
A little bit, maybe.
No, it just means you're passionate. It's fine.
Would one of you guys mind, or anybody that might be listening in the chat, if anybody is able to share an invite link with the chat, I will pin it.
Sure, I got you.
Yeah, Matt can do that.
Sounds
I got
good.
you. I have been the time of my life, and I owe it all to you.
I had the time of my life.
It's becoming a very musical stream. I'm stuck on a feeling.
Alright, there you go.
I don't believe in that something then. Good night, Just a Potterhead. Okay, so I've pinned that. Right now I am in my community Discord server that I just linked to you guys. If you would be interested in having a conversation with me about something, or an argument about something, hop into Stream Guest Vet, at which point I will mute the stream and I will pop in to make sure that you're a real person, that you're not going to just say some crazy shit, and I'll bring you in. Once again, go to Stream Guest Vet if you want to hop into the voice chat on the community Discord. It is pinned in the YouTube chat, and it just passed by as a link a minute ago, so feel free to join if you would like to. With that being said, the only last thing I would like to add before we continue our conversation is that this is a community-funded channel supported by viewers like you. If you would like to contribute to the continued existence of this channel and its continued work, then please consider donating, subscribing for a membership, or just engaging with the channel. Share it around, that kind of thing. All of it helps.
Go to the Discord, be somebody.
But, Phoebe, the main reason I hopped in was because I wanted to talk a little more about what you we were talking about just a minute ago.
Alright, bet.
I guess it would be hard unless, we were physically there to know, if it was something that happened that made her uncomfortable, but I think in the long run, it does suck, but it doesn't matter as much because clearly it just wouldn't be a match to begin with if that kind of thing bothers them, because I feel uncomfortable when places are too nice and too clean, so I can't relate to that.
Right. Like there's a certain person we both knew at one time that had a house that was exactly the kind of vibe you're talking about, and I could never get comfortable hanging out at that house ever. Ever. Right. And is my plebeian ass allowed to set foot within these borders? Am I going to be arrested by the town guard if I fart?
Like I said in chat, I don't like just to assume that someone's an uptight bad person or something like that. Maybe she just could have just got scared, and that's not your fault.
That's another thing I'm wondering, what if she's, pawning it off on the room so that I don't feel bad about myself or about the situation, but what if it's actually just, that she had, a rush of feelings and was like, oh, shit, I don't know about this, this is too fast or whatever, and then, it could be that.
I mean, she had some spicy feelings. She probably let you know over the phone or something.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. That if she was horribly pissed off at me, that she probably would have told me. If it was something I did egregiously wrong. So I think that Taylor's probably right, and that Paul is probably right, both of them, when they say that that it was probably just a compatibility issue, basically. Because I think that there are some people, honestly, that person I was just talking about that me and Taylor both know, if he hung out with me in this room, he would be roasting me the whole time for how it looks, how he can, vaguely smell the stale smell of cat piss from the litter box and shit. He'd be, probably able to do it, but would probably not like it. It would be a thing of convenience because we're we were at one point besties basically, but it's not somewhere that I think he would have hung out on his own volition, and that's not, I don't think it's necessarily maybe it is a pretentiousness thing, but ultimately when we're talking about this situation I was just in, it's more of a compatibility issue. Maybe she is kind of pretentious in the way that certain class indicators make her feel or whatever, but the more important thing is, if she's turned off by an unfinished building or a kind of crummy property, then we're definitely not the right girls for each other, because like we're gonna like
What is she?
fundamentally not see eye to eye on certain things. We're not even gonna see
You
beauty in
don't,
the same things.
you don't have to get into specific. What does she drive?
I could not really
Is
tell,
it
but it
nice?
was it was a newer car.
How does she dress?
Understated. Nothing special there. I didn't notice any like name brands that jumped out.
Oh, some people just get a vibe and they get scared and they leave.
Well, that's the thing. Fashion is no longer necessarily the indicator of class that it used to be. I know this one girl who grew up just as impoverished as I did. She's like, I don't know, fucking like 6 years younger than I am or some shit. But um, like I met her a few years ago, and like despite growing up in utter abject poverty, pretty much the only thing she will spend like a decent amount of money on is fashion and clothes. And she's got a really good fashion sense. So she always, unless she's like just hanging around the house and not planning on going out anywhere, she always pretty much looks stunning, like no matter what. And so you would think if you just met her somewhere, and I think that's one of the reasons why she's gotten as many opportunities as she has, you would think that she was like a rich girl that had been raised in a middle class family, but she's not. She's a broke fucking, she's like literally fucking raised in abject poverty, just as bad as I was. Same region, same class striation and everything, but like the emphasis that she puts into it and the effort and skill that she applies, that aesthetic makes her seem about $200,000 a year richer than she actually is. And so, like, I don't know, it's not actually a class indicator anymore. Like, I used to hang out with somebody that lived in a suburban mansion, basically, that dressed like a fucking regular, everyday stoner girl. You'd never know that she came from a rich family. In fact, when I went to hang out with her for the first time, I thought I was driving to probably a trailer park. And then we entered a gated community. And I was like, oh, okay. But her and her family, they just dressed like normal people, because they were working class, and until their dad got this really fucking uh, good paying job.
Well, you'll never know with like really rich people because they don't really dress fancy.
Right.
People with real wealth, you know what I mean?
Right. It's like quiet luxury or whatever it's called. Aurora back a minute ago said, for $5, Aurora Moon said, "What do we think about ground news?" I'm actually really glad that people are starting to call out the media bias that exists within ground news, and the fact that it like tries to paint itself as this open kind of, we give coverage to both sides and tell you how the news is looking at different things kind of platform. It sells itself as that. And in fact, there are lefty creators and progressive creators that fight misinformation who have had ground news sponsorships in the past. But there's a reason why I don't use ground news. And it's because I went through and used it like once or twice and realized pretty much immediately this is a way for centrists and right-leaning people to get sucked into the right-wing media environment. This is what this exists for. And it can be used by someone who is enough of a critical thinker to find widespread and abundant coverage and to do comparative analysis. But that's not what it points you to doing. So that's what I think of ground news. I think it's a right-wing psyop designed to get centrist and right-leaning people down the right-wing rabbit hole. Thank you for the $5.
Too bad we couldn't get Paul to come in here.
Maybe you will.
You've got someone waiting in the stream guest bed.
Yeah, I'm going to mute up the stream real quick. Let me hop over there.
Me, you.
Alrighty, we're back, guys.
I feel like I already know who you are, though, because I was already listening and watching.
Oh, yeah? Man, what's with all these ladies? You all sound the same.
What? I mean, maybe me and Gemma did a small bit, but I don't think any of us three here sound remotely similar.
No. What
No,
the
I don't
fuck?
think so either.
Matt, that's
You
so
sound just like
misogynistic.
Ellie a little bit. That's why I was like, I'm getting confused.
I am talking very low because my partner's asleep, so
You also
you work
sound
way earlier than I do.
Yeah, you also sound just like Gemma. Wow.
Oh no, much different than Gemma.
Matt, I
Maybe
think
It's
you...
one of those y'all look the same situations.
Oh.
And I'm just an asshole.
Oh yeah, you can't see that I'm mixed, so I'll
Oh no, definitely.
Matt,
I'm just going to step out of this.
Matt,
I dug myself.
Matt,
Hey,
do
wait, so I can't hear. Should I? Okay, the stream's on this one.
Matt, do Morgan Freeman and Denzel Washington look the same to you?
I have to turn that down so I don't get double feedback, but I don't hear Phoebe though.
I don't hear her either. No.
You don't hear me?
Maybe she's it.
Hello?
Give me that.
You guys don't hear me?
And then what's?
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, there's two people in here.
Hello?
Oh.
Okay, that was weird. I don't know why it did that.
Listen.
Yeah, I didn't hear you after you moved me.
That's very
Just
weird.
listening to me put my foot in my mouth.
Well, okay, I was making jokes the whole time, and I was wondering why you guys weren't responding. I asked Matt at one point.
Oh, I bet that felt like you're like, oh yeah, we're just ignoring you.
I was like, are they just ignoring me, these fuckers? I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it's ours.
I was gonna ask Matt. Do Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman look the same to you? Also, just wondering.
Hey, that's not nice.
You started it.
Don't say that.
I will say Lawrence Fishburne and Morpheus do look alike, though. Forrest Whitaker and wait, who's it? Oh my god, Lawrence Fishburne and Forrest Whitaker look the same to me. They really do.
I agree. I mean, there are black people that look the same, just like there are white people that look the same. But not every black person looks the same, and not every white person looks the same. Well, for the most part.
Like,
Clearly, I have made a mistake.
have you seen that meme where it's like Guy Fieri, the dude from Smash Mouth, and Violent J from ICP?
Yeah, they're all the same guy.
Yeah, Guy Fieri. Yeah, that's funny.
There really are like 6 or 7 different types of middle-aged white guy, and once you realize all the archetypes, whenever you see one that's like outside of it, it's like, ha 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 ha,
Like, oh, that one has a soul patch.
Yeah.
Put him over there.
It's like
all us white people don't look the same.
No, but like French people do tend to like share some, Well, it's weird, right? Because if you actually get into it, this idea. I'm gonna shut my window so the train gets shut out for a little longer. But this idea of like one consistent white identity is like super modern and is not reflective of how. It's not reflective of how these different groups actually like used to think of each other, and it's very strange to me when you realize how there actually are like traceable genetic. They're not like notable. It's not like it affects intelligence or worthiness or anything like that. But they're like French people do look more similar to other French people than like, and I'm saying ethnically French people, than like ethnically German people. Ethnically English people.
Like, actual, they are different, like ethnically. They
Yeah.
Various different like characteristics and traits, like hair color, eye color, like skin, like complexion, and things like that.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, it'll never stop being weird to me that there are still people, you know, like, being for real for a minute. It'll never stop being weird to me that there actually are people out there who really are, like, trying to defend the legitimacy of a white identity, because to me, it just reduces so much of the complexity of the human race.
Well, I mean, it's really an American thing, because, like, in Europe, you're not white or black. You're French or you're German. You know, you're not white until you come to America. You know, in Africa, you're Nigerian, or, you know, you're from a country. You're not black until you come to America. Then you're black or white, and then it's whiteness and blackness. It's a really weird kind of caste thing that's very American.
I would argue that it's like American and like Western European in a way, because like there are definitely places. Well, there are definitely places that have like a higher that have embraced. Here's what I'll say, right? If you look at the fascist movements of early 1900s Europe, the ones that everybody talks about, right? The ones that actually managed to secure a modicum of power, you're right, they oriented themselves around their ethnicity, not necessarily this like all-encompassing and ever-broadening idea of whiteness. But modern fascist movements in these places have adopted many of the Americanisms concerning race that involve kind of trying to unify, because it's become kind of difficult with European becoming an ever more metropolitan place. It's kind of become difficult to align a bunch of far-right Germans just on the basis of their German ethnicity, because there are tons of people that are far right in these places, Germany, for example, that are like, you know, like they're the fourth generation descendant of a very early Turkish immigrant or something, or they're like the fourth generation descendant of somebody that would not be considered. Like, you can't, if you try to do like the original Nazi thing, you can't do it in the same way. So they've adopted this kind of like American.
They've done the American thing where it's like the one drop rule.
Well, exactly, you know? Right, in reverse almost, yeah. Where
do you
like
think it's less of a race thing and more of like once you become American, like the American moniker supersedes everything else. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think people like who are like Irish immigrants and stuff like that who are outcast in Europe, you come over to America and then it's like then there's like black people here, there are native people here, you're not the lowest of, like, you know what I'm saying, then automatically you're part of the higher caste, when in Europe you maybe were part of the lowest. You know, you come to America, then all of a sudden your whiteness supersedes your Irishness, and then it's kind of weird, honestly.
Oh, it's 100% weird. And I think you're right to say it's a pretty uniquely American evil. I just think, well, it's uniquely American in origin, but I don't think it's uniquely American in application. It's one of those things that can now, like, you can make what used to be uniquely American arguments for white supremacy in fucking Australia or Britain or Germany or France or Italy. And in fact, I've seen a rise of these right-wing alt-right movements in these countries recycling the rhetoric of Confederates and Klansmen and Southerners, the exact kind of people that I grew up around, listening to these arguments, listening to these hayseeds make these fucking uneducated, bigoted, backwards arguments from 150 years ago.
I'm from Atlanta.
Oh my god, then you know exactly what I mean. Exactly what I mean. And that's why it's so goddamn frustrating to me to see fucking Europe, one of the most educated places on the planet, falling for this bullshit. Because this is the type of shit I used to hear fucking toothless old rednecks tooting out of a fucking jug talking about after the fucking hoedown.
I think it's like a way for people to see themselves as like better than someone else. So by saying like something can be pure or something is like, but like, you know, like not tainted, then that gives them like a high ground that they maybe weren't born into. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I think it's really complex about, just in society and like privilege and everything like that. Like as far as like being cisgender or being like heterosexual or being like, white or being like, because if they're like, oh, white privilege isn't a thing, it's like, it doesn't mean you can't have a hard life. It just means that you were born with like all of your XP,
Yeah, and
instead
it's
of like being born with like negative.
And it's a thing too, like, I'm sorry, I'll let you talk in just a second, Matt, I promise, but you said, they feel like they've got this high ground, and I agree with you, but I hate it because it's an unearned high ground, a completely unearned high ground, and it's an only theoretical, even if it was an earnable high ground, which it's not a valid high ground, but even if it was, it's something a lot of these people wouldn't be able to live up to. Kupo, I'm assuming that you probably don't watch everything I do because I see you in the chat intermittently. I don't see you every single time I stream, and that's fine. That's not a call out or anything. That's why I do so much streaming, is so that people with different schedules have different times that they're able to watch me. But, let me just ask you this. Am I 100% white?
I don't know. I mean, I think, like, you mean, like, just, like, as far as, like, looking at you? Like,
right, just looking at me, having seen me on stream, what is your assumption?
I would say, like if you got arrested, the cop would put a W in your square.
Yes, 100%, and they would be right to. But what I know, because I took a 23andMe, is that my ancestry is actually a cornucopia of different ethnicities, most of them European, that's true, but 0.4% Angolan and Congolese, 0.3% Iranian. So, like, within the last 300 years, I've got a black ancestor and a Persian ancestor. I've got ancestors from within the last 200 years from southern Italy, from basically places as foreign to me as like southern Italy and Spain and France and shit. Like, it's a wide cornucopia of mostly European ancestries with a little bit of like exoticity to it, I guess. But I look at that as like just further proof of this completely of the completely bullshit nature of the idea of whiteness, because these people would want me to have alliance with a group of people that is fake. They would want to count me amongst their number, despite the fact that somewhere allyship to England, because they're 75% of my ancestry, then I should have to Angola or the Democratic Republic of the Congo, when they're almost 0.5% of my ancestry.
Good point, and I think this is one of those things that's also like uniquely American, is because we have no real like white America isn't a thing. Like, if you're American, you're a Native American. You know what I mean? So I think the white like American thing is honestly just a mix of like European that came like coming to America. So I think that's why it gets a little different as far as like purity goes, right? In America,
it's a complicated thing too, because if you look into the history of this concept, it is a really weird thing. It didn't really start to evolve as a distinct concept until basically until after America started to cohese into something that could form a national movement. When the initial colonies were established in what would eventually become America, the polities that America traces its ancestry back to, after all, we don't trace our ancestry back to the French or the Spanish, who also colonized North America, because in our minds, we came from the British colonization effort. That's who we fought for independence from. And
I guess if you want to consider all of the Americas, like South America and everything, that's also like a whole other.
Well, yeah, of course. I'm talking. We draw our ancestry as far as like not our ancestry literally, because obviously an American can be from anywhere, but at least that's what I believe. But we trace our like cultural and governmental, our state ancestry back to the polities of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, the Plymouth colony, Jamestown, these different places along the East Coast that made up the 13 colonies.
It's not even ethnically, and America ethnically is just natives. Like, no one that is white is ethnically American.
No, I know.
You know?
I know, but that's what I'm trying to kind of...
I think makes it weird.
That's what I'm trying to get to. That's what I'm trying to get to, though, is that the more you think about it, the more you learn about it, the weirder it gets. Because, like, the initial waves of what would eventually become termed white were exclusively, like, British people. And not just British people, but, like, a specific subset of British Puritans. That was, like, the initial waves of that. And then you had... different groups from Britain that started coming over. Eventually, Britain started sending its prisoners over after a little while. But it was, like, initially, you know, like the term popularly tossed around by white supremacists and English nativists and shit is Anglo-Saxon. It was originally English people. And then, once slavery started to become a fundamental part of the machinery of American capitalism, right around like the early kind of 1700s, that's when you start hearing the first whispers of this growing concept of whiteness, which suddenly starts to include French people. So now alliances are not set along ethnic lines anymore. Now you're starting to see this manufacturing of a racial concept.
It's really caste.
Yeah, it's a caste. Yeah, it's a caste system that's being manufactured by the planter and industrial elite of the early 13 colonies. And eventually that gets broadened from including English, from English, Scottish, and French people to English, Scottish, French, and Spanish, not Mexican, Spanish people. Then it gets included from Spanish, French, English, and Scottish to include German people and people from Scandinavia and like Northern Europe. And it's not until like the late 1800s that Irish people get considered white. And it's not until the fucking 1930s or something that Italian people get considered white. I might be getting those two dates turned around or something, but it's like, it's not until...
I'm thinking of like Ellis Island time and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't until like the time of like Ellis Island and shit. And expediently after, really, that Italians started to become known as white. Like there are people who are old enough to remember when Italian Americans were still discriminated against by certain types of people. So it's
yes, I think a lot of white people like to say that as like a reason why they don't benefit from racism, because they'll be like, oh, my immigrants were Irish. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but they were still white. But I do understand that there was a difference in how people were treated in America as Irish immigrants before, but I'm saying that that's still...
Yeah, you're pointing out an important distinction. Yeah, Italians and Irish were never subjected to chattel slavery. It was illegal, right? They were included in whiteness from a legal standpoint from a pretty early point. But it was a cultural...
But not equality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I think you're right. I think it's not... I don't bring this up to say that white people didn't benefit from racism. Obviously, white people continue to benefit from racism, racist systems, etc. What I'm saying is I'm trying to illustrate how bullshit the idea of whiteness actually is. How stupid the idea that white supremacists are...
understand.
Huh?
It's kind of crazy. No, I 100% agree with you. I think that's why it's so shitty, is that it makes zero sense and it's not based on merit or any kind of character or anything like derivative of like your... It's all... It's just...
It claims to be based...
It's like literally cast. It's like you're born into this. Your last name is this. Like these certain things are just
arbitrary.
It's
insidious because it claims to be. It's insidious too because it claims to be based on an intrinsic construct, but the intrinsic construct it's based on is complete bullshit. Not only because
no one's better than anyone else.
well, not just that, but like, yeah, obviously nobody's better than anybody else by virtue of their birth, of course. But I would also say that even if you were to take them at their word partly and say, okay, maybe there is something about pure genetics that would confer some benefit on somebody, which there isn't, there's not. But even if there was, even if you take them at that, it's still a bullshit premise when you realize you can't take them at their word for that, because you look through history and you realize, oh wait, this concept can't be intrinsic because it's changed meaning so many goddamn times over the last 250 fucking years. Not only that, but it can't be intrinsic if genetic tests regularly reveal that white supremacists have recent Jewish ancestry, fairly recent Native American ancestry, sometimes they've got fairly recent black ancestry. Motherfuckers don't know where they came from in America. They think they do because they got some family story. But I actually know from like the genetic tests I've taken that my heritage includes everything from like what white supremacists call heritage Americans, meaning the first 3 waves of people that came over the 13 colonies. I can trace a small part of my ancestry back to that. I can also trace a part of my ancestry back to likely an enslaved person living 300 years ago and a Persian sailor living sometime before that. And like so if that's true of me, who is not a white supremacist and who was always told that I did have various parts of my ancestry that were probably not white, imagine, and if that's already been proven true of so many white supremacists, then imagine how bullshit this idea actually is. Even if you were to accept some of the precepts, it cannot be true. But even if it were true, it also can't be true because of how it would have to be applied. Because I don't think that there is a genuine...
This argument has any leg to stand on once you dig any kind of scratch any kind of thing that could ever debunk it. It can all be debunked, but they hate that. They just don't acknowledge it. They refuse to, like, it's
race
kind of
realists
like
hate facts and logic.
Kind of thing.
Race realists hate facts and logic. That's what it is.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. And if you hold up like an example, then it's, you know, it then automatically it's like something. It's like, I'm not sure how to explain it, but I mean, just listening to them talk or even presenting someone's argument with something that's fact, it'll be completely. It's like I can't even give. Like, I can't argue with anybody who's racist. Why being racist is wrong, because they're truly racist. I've never been able to, like, you know that one black guy who, like, I saw him on a Weird Weekends episode of Louis Theroux. He, like, collects Klan's robes and stuff. Like, he goes...
Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis.
Huh?
I worship that man. Yeah. He is my God.
He's on the Lord's work. Better man than me. Shit. Nope. No.
Dude, that man, oh my God, you are giving me fucking goose flesh right now. I am so happy to hear you talk about this. Daryl Davis is the greatest example of what you're talking about. It's called contact theory, and it's what I try to engage in on my streams. You notice how fucked up and toxic my chat gets sometimes? Well, my whole tactic is providing these people who hate me with an image that is fundamentally different than the image they've been sold. These people have been sold compilations of every trans person that's ever freaked out in public for the last 10 years. They have been sold compilations of every fucking rare so often trans person who ends up being a predator or something. And they've been force-fed this lie that all trans people are fucked up, sociopathic deviants and shit. And so what I do is I provide them with like just your average trans person. Like, that's why I've got so many trans people in my audience, is because, like, you know, like, I've got cis people in my audience. I've got a wide, diverse audience. I think because, like, there's no stereotype really that you can neatly apply to me, except some of the most, like, innocuous ones. Like, oh, she likes to dress up sometimes. Like, she likes to have a queer flag in the back of her background. You know, like, that's the best. Like, oh, she's got bangs, you know.
I'm mopping up what you're spilling.
Yeah, and
it couldn't be me, because that's. But I get exactly what you're doing. It's like immersion therapy for transphobes.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's called contact theory. It's what Daryl Davis does, and I would not put myself on his level. But he is the guy that introduced this idea to me. It was actually Paul Zigo, who was in my chat earlier under the Poltergeist. That guy is super fucking cool. I've been watching him for like 10 years, and it was Paul that introduced me to Daryl Davis. And the idea that talking to hateful people, if you can stand it, um, can actually be more effective than yelling at them. And I think if you and I agree with you. Like if you listen to Daryl Davis's TED Talks, it makes me tear up sometimes because of the humanity that he is able to restore in these people. And I
what cost though, you know?
though that's the fucking thing. That's weird. It doesn't seem to have much of a psychological cost on him, but I don't think that would be true of every person. I don't think that would be true of every person.
That's why I say that. I could not subject myself, like, even what you're doing, if you're subjecting yourself to, like, the most, like, ignorant forms of just, like vitriol and hatred that is unsolicited and just due to, like, bias of people who are trans. And, like, being, like, to try to, like, humanize or talk to those people or give them a voice, to me, is, like, it hurt me, and I do respect humanity. I like, you know, I think everyone, I don't think anyone is irredeemable. I really don't. But I can't be the person to, like, you know what I mean?
You can't be Captain Save-A-Ho. And not everybody can be Captain Save-A-Ho. But I always had kind of a Captain Save-A-Ho complex, so now that I've found a way to monetize being Captain Save-A-Ho, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty fucking dope, honestly. And I think you have to have the right constitution for it, which is why I tell people, if you're able to have a conversation, a difficult conversation with someone about politics, race, whatever it is, try and have that conversation. But if you can't, don't shame yourself for it.
Uncomfortable conversations, I'm okay with. I can't deal with, like, unbridled, like, unfounded hatred in a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
I can deal with uncomfortable.
Right. So let me ask you this. Let's say, and I fully expect your answer to be nah, and it's fine if it is. But let's say you had the opportunity to have like just a calm sit-down conversation with somebody at a Steak and Shake who was like a Klan leader.
Oh, I miss shoestring fries.
I know, right?
Well, I mean, I don't live in the South anymore. I live in Colorado now. There's no safe.
Thank goodness.
Here. But, you know, to be honest, I'm adopted. I'm from Atlanta. I'm half black. I'm adopted by a white family from the South, from Georgia. You know, so you can imagine I have uncles and family members that treated my mom some type of way when she brought home like a black baby. You know?
Oh, I can imagine. So yeah.
I have family members, and I think the best thing that I can see that happens is, like, when a really racist family has a daughter that has a black kid and they can't not love their grandkid. That, I think, heals a lot of racism in America in the South. Is the love for the
yeah.
family.
Oh, 100%.
People who are like, I'm not racist, but if my daughter ever dated a black guy, you're still racist. But then when she brings home a mixed kid, are you going to love it? And they're like, of course. And I'm like, okay, you see them, but that's just a person.
Right. That's unfortunately a thing that applies to a lot of the conservative mindset. Let me comment on that on 1 second. Let me just thank you, King Bugs, for the $50. I appreciate it a ton. I'm sorry I did not see that earlier, but it is viewership and support like yours that enables me to keep going, so I appreciate it a ton. If anybody else would like to donate, feel free to do so at the Cash App link down below or via Super Chat like the wonderful King Bugs did earlier. Either way, I appreciate it a ton. Let's get a tip train going, because this has been an interesting conversation. But yeah, it's a thing I think applies a lot to the conservative mindset, is this idea that things don't often change for a conservative until something comes home to them. Sometimes that is their kid comes out as trans. Sometimes that is, and sometimes they just kick the kid out, obviously. But sometimes it's bringing home a mixed race kid. Sometimes it's marrying someone that's mixed race, and then you actually have to confront the reality that you've been spouting for the last 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. And a lot of people, more people than you would realize with how negative news coverage has become these days, more people than I think we're given credit for, meaning the American people broadly and Southern people in particular, come around to the right decision after that. And they start to...
I find that to be true as well, like, as a lived experience.
I'm glad. Well, because you're also from the South, so that you can back that up as well as reaffirming to me. You know, like Taylor, you're from the Midwest. And you haven't talked for a while, but I would love to see how true you think this is in your experience. Like, the thesis basically is conservative people often stay conservative and sometimes remain conservative even despite this, but will change upon something coming home to them and it impacting them in a direct personal way. Do you find that to be true?
So, I don't feel like so much so here. I feel like it's pretty divided. It's already pretty divided on what people think. So, I just feel like while people will tolerate, like, I'll just speak to my own personal experience of growing up. One of my family members mingled, as a white woman with a black man, for example, and that was not the response that certain members of my family had. On one hand, you would have the people that were, like, this doesn't bother me anyway, so it doesn't bother me now, but then it was kind of like, I will never accept this. Would no longer be my family. So I think it's really interesting. I've just had a different experience.
Well, no, I think what you're saying is very relevant. Saying, like, tolerating something versus accepting it, like, in what kind of level of acceptance they have to say, like, oh, I accept it and I still love you, or it's like, I put up with it because I love you.
But yeah, because I think here in the place where I live, I have really a mixed bag because, I'm in a rural area, but I'm not that far out from, like, Kansas City per se.
Oh, you're, like, just in the middle of the shit of it, like, south, like, just north of the Mason-Dixon, just west of the Mississippi. Yeah. So, that's real.
I don't really find any in-betweens. It's either I'm a racist or, no, that would never bother me.
Right on.
Yeah.
And
you're
so,
in a weird place in America that I feel like it's way more stark than, like, it is in the South.
It's literally just...
And isn't that weird?
I don't like black people, or everyone's my friend.
Right. So isn't that weird though? Because if you think about it, the stereotype reads the other way. Like if you were to watch, like, okay, like I can imagine if someone were like a European and like a British person or whatever. And I've talked to Brits who feel this way. It's one of the reasons why I think this. They very often have a perception of the South that is an incredibly divided place. That's typically how it's portrayed in a lot of mainstream media, even a lot of like news coverage in a lot of cases, documentaries, stuff like that. But the real truth of it, in my experience at least, is that the Midwest actually tends to be a more starkly divided place. And I think it just doesn't appear that way because those stark divisions lead to people being very fiercely progressive in a lot of the cities and in places that have a lot of cultural outflow from those cities, and people being very, very starkly conservative in rural places that don't have a lot of cultural osmosis with a nearby big city. Like the area Taylor's in.
Polarized.
Right. Like I would say the area Taylor lives in, from what I remember living up there, I don't know if this is accurate, but I always got the impression that it leaned left, that area. And I always attributed that to the cultural osmosis that it got from being between two reasonably big towns and in between two massive cities. Not directly in between, but very close to one, and in theory between two. And so I just always attributed it to that, but I might be wrong because I didn't grow up there, so maybe it's a lot more conservative than I got an impression of. But to me,
So I think the overall consensus, just based on the way that this area votes, is conservative. But I would say that compared to a lot of places in this state, it's definitely.
Are you Missouri? Can I ask that?
Yes, I am in Missouri. It's
Okay.
definitely more socially left. Like it just like growing up, it wasn't really like a weird thing for people to be gay. Like they were just gay people.
right, that was one of the things that struck me about living up there was that, like, I don't know, like that town had
How gay it was.
well, yeah, and like how alternative and goth and how trans it was too. Like the first trans person I ever met is from your town. Like the first couple of trans people that I ever met are from that area. Like the first like musical community that I fell into is that area's musical community, and it was full of like socialists and like people that were hard left leaning socially, even if they weren't on economics or whatever. And like just I don't know, like fucking it was such a culture shock to me because I moved up there kind of expecting it to be, the hills have eyes country. And what it actually ended up being was like the most like seemingly progressive kind of culturally town that I had lived in until I lived in North Adams, Massachusetts. And that struck me because it's like a population of 4,000 versus the town I moved there from, which was like fucking 14,000 people. But down there, felt like every other motherfucker I ran into was some fucking backwards hayseed redneck with some fucking conservative opinions. Whereas whereas in fucking Taylorstown, it felt like it was every third person maybe. And that struck me as odd and neat.
I think Missouri is one of those places that's like St. Louis was like one of the first like free cities for like black people to be free, but then also the place that's like right where it's divided. You know what I mean? It's like it's right in that area that's like, and it especially depends on which side of like Missouri you're on. I feel like it's even more divided. Like in Atlanta, like in Georgia where I'm from, it's like very equally well, I think Atlanta is a different kind of place because there is like a black middle class and like black home ownership. It's like it's like the only place in America with like rich black people everywhere. And I think in Missouri and also in Ohio and in Indiana, those are those states where it's like, don't drive 5 minutes in this direction, drive 5 minutes in this direction, kind of a place.
So yeah, I agree. I think the place I live is so interesting because like all of the impoverished people that I can think of, with maybe 1 to 2 exceptions, are white people. And it's not like we're all white. I mean, yes, we're more white than we are anything else, but we've got, I would say, a decent sized black community for like the size of the place I live and where I'm located. But it's not the non-white individuals that I see in poverty here. It's always the white people, which I think is very interesting,
Yeah.
That is a ramble. It's kind of late, but
I
hope that got across what I was trying to say.
I do hear what you're saying.
I was just gonna say, I remember looking into the history of that area because I was fascinated by the cultural tendencies that I was seeing, and like anytime I live in a place, I become kind of fascinated with its history and stuff. It's just I don't know what it is about me. Maybe that's my special interest. But when I looked into it, one of the interesting things that I learned was that the area right around where Taylor lives and this is a wide enough geographical descriptor that I think I can still use it without doxing her. It used to be called Little Dixie. And, it's a wide geographical region centered, in Missouri, along the Missouri River, that had basically some of the only slavery that really occurred in Missouri, because tons of parts of Missouri are not good for plantation farming. Most of Missouri is not good for plantation farming. Most of Missouri was not really farmable until techniques of mass agriculture became widespread, because it's either too far away from reliable water sources and therefore requires the sort of mass irrigation that was only possible within the last 100 years, or it's too hilly and the climate isn't exactly what you need for growing things en masse, and the terrain isn't exactly right for it, so you just don't get enough profit out of that land. It's too hard to manage that much land. It provides too many opportunities for slave escape and all this other shit. So there's only one area in Missouri that ended up getting populated heavily with slave-owning families and their slaves, and like the people that were enslaved by them. And that was an area around the Missouri River, somewhat near Kansas City, that was near enough to water for, and in a certain type of weather pattern where that sort of mass agriculture has been possible without, like, that, without modern irrigation methods for a long time. And whenever the Great Migration happened after, like, the end of slavery and the beginning of Reconstruction, a lot of black people in that area that had been freed and that were now looking for better opportunities, a lot of them ended up moving to St. Louis or Kansas City or even Columbia, because it was an area that had a lot more economic opportunity, that was already like a more friendly and welcoming environment for different types of people. And as a result, from what I understand, most of the black people that live in that region today, because of just the sheer amount of depopulation that happened, most of the black families that live there, at this point, have either moved there in the last 50 years or the last 100 years, or are part of a very small group of families that stayed and sharecropped for former slave masters and shit. But it's an incredibly interesting kind of slice of Missouri history, in my opinion.
I didn't even know all that.
You should look into it. I'm fascinated by your area.
I should.
You live in a science experiment to me, Taylor.
Like Tulsa, kind of an area. Like Oklahoma is probably the only state that I can think of that's more nuanced in that way than Missouri.
Yeah. Another way I would describe it is growing up, I never really saw, for the most part, hatefulness out in public. I never saw bigotry right in my face for the most part. It was usually within the comfort of people's homes, that I would hear these things being said where I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Why is this allowed? But it's just not a public thing. Of course people here, there's racist people here, but I never would hear about it outside of the home.
I think the best way, for people who aren't black to experience what it's like to be black, or experience the look, is be with someone that is black, a partner, or intimately. Walk around with them, hold their hands, or drive with them, and then you'll be like, what the fuck is she looking at me like that for? And you're like, no one's ever looked at me like that before. And it's like, okay, that's the look. Now you know what that look is. And it's not always blatant. It's just a weird way that someone will just meet your eyes, or they don't meet your eyes. It's subtle. But I think, with the current administration and everything, everyone's way more emboldened to be blatantly. But what you're saying, as far as like seeing it in someone's home or something, when people like kind of test the waters or say things in private that they would never say to someone's face, is like, I don't know. I think it's probably the way that you notice it there too. If it's like not as acceptable to have, like, you know, a Confederate flag on your truck as it is in the South, you know.
No,
It just
not
might be
like people that I've seen them occasionally, and it's they're never the person around town that everybody likes. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we're racist, but we do it in private to hide by.
Yeah. It's like, no. I have a friend. I play Call of Duty with him. He's flagged. You know, he's just one of the good ones.
It's more like, that's a good way to put it. It's kind of more like that. It's more like the acceptable kind. Like, we've got. Sorry.
No. I was just saying something dumb. Don't worry about me.
Like, we've got some people, like, God, this is going to sound so stereotypical, but that's just the way it is here. Like, we have a Mexican restaurant here we don't really have a lot of Mexican people here. So that's like the representation for the Mexican people in our area, but it's like, nobody shits on them, and some of them don't even speak English. Nobody shits on them because they're providing something not here. Same thing for like Arab or Indian.
Even like people at the gas station, if they say like, "Oh, because
I didn't
it's
want
cold
to say it,
outside,"
but
no, it is a cultural thing.
That's exactly what's happening.
It is a thing in the Middle East. Like, it is like, I mean, and also like innkeepers, like as far as like East Indian, like it's a thing. Like Vietnamese, like it's a whole thing after like World War II. Like there were like these like 4 ladies who taught like, you know, like widows of the Vietnam War like how to do like nail art, and immigrated to America, and that's why, like, you know, it's a primarily like Vietnamese owned like thing in America, just like gas stations and stuff. But people won't say that because you're right, it's being commodified. It's like, oh, I deal with this Arabic person who works at the 7-Eleven, so I'm not. I get what you're saying, but I think it's because Black people are just American. They're not immigrants, you know. So maybe they look at them in a different way as like lesser Americans who like should be equally as American, but like they could look at someone else who maybe from another country as like, oh, they're an immigrant or they're from a foreign country, so it's different to subject them to being, you know, Vietnamese and they're from Vietnam. So like, why can I, you know, I get what you're saying, and that's weird. That's another weird American thing.
I have a question. And, you know, correct me if I'm wrong. You know, obviously this doesn't diminish anyone's origins or, you know, race or anything, or their culture. But isn't it nice that, you know, we are all Americans at the end of the day?
Thank you, King Bugs, for all the gifted memberships.
You know,
I appreciate that a
some
ton.
people use that to...
You are so fucking awesome, and I love you.
Racist, maybe, I don't know.
Dude, I feel bad because I feel like patriotism got hijacked by racism. And
It did.
Patriotism is innately racist.
It did, and it's because of the Civil War. It's literally because of the Civil War. Like, they needed, like, Southern planter class needed to fucking, like, redefine national identity for the purposes of their racist project, and they left a fucking rotten legacy that we've never quite cleaned up.
Yeah. I shouldn't be disgusted at the American flag, but it's not because I see it as a symbol of American and like our unity. It's because I see it as a symbol of like nationalism, and that sucks.
Yeah, it does, because, you know, I don't know, I just, I wish we could get back to improving things instead of regressing.
I think maybe 9/11 was the last time I was like, I'm an American, and I'm like, you know what, I stand with America. When I was like, you know, like a kid, and I remember 9/11, and I remember patriotism being about unity. And that's probably the only time in my life I can think about it being like that.
But it's weird because you know what, Paul, we were talking about him earlier. He was 21 when 9/11 happened, and one of the things that he talks about a lot these days, especially as all this Arab American hate is ramping up, although I haven't heard him talk about it recently, and I think he should, especially with the Abdul El-Sayed campaign ramping up to a full election. Like, one of the things that happened was, like, white, black, and broadly, like, Asian Americans felt united for the last time on 9/11. But Arab Americans have faced more discrimination in the last 20 years than they have in the entirety of America's history.
I think they're probably the most demonized for speaking their own language than anyone else in America.
That's why I've got a couple of Yemeni dudes that run a gas station near where I live, and you know, like, whenever I go in there, I greet them in their native language because I look at it as a way for me to be like, hey, I accept you here. In fact, I'm so welcoming of you here that I want to let you know that I appreciate your culture. And whenever we get done with their transaction, I'm like, shukran. And they're like, afwan. And it's great. And they smile and joke with me, and we have lots of laughs, and I love those fucking dudes. And they are as American to me as apple pie and fucking Betty Sue. And I think that it speaks to kind of the blind spots we have in our culture. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with feeling like we were last united on 9/11, because I say the same type of shit. But I think it's also important to remember that that was actually, in a lot of ways, when the cracks started forming. Because it was 9/11 that finally gave Americans the impetus, the quote-unquote permission to hate on and be racist and xenophobic towards people of just vaguely Middle Eastern descent.
Yeah, do you feel like, you know, being a person of color, that especially during that time, that the reason maybe you felt like more togetherness is because we're all focused on hating somebody else, and there's just less time on focusing on
the old school forms of hate?
You know, I don't think so. I can see how that might seem that way, but like at the time that it was for me when I was a kid, it was very different. It was more like the children of the future, you know, like we are the world, we are the children, you know, like everybody's supposed to like love everybody, sustain the earth. Like it was a very positive time, I think, to be a kid when I was a kid like that, and it was very focused on like global unity and like camaraderie and togetherness in a way that I don't think I've ever experienced in another community. And like to me, it was like real. You know what I mean? It was like they're like adding more colored band-aids, more colors in your colored pencil. Like there are things that are like that were happening that I felt like America was really trying to be like the actual melting pot thing. Like you have the story that you're sold when you're a kid, and then when that happened, it was like everybody has to look out for everybody. It didn't matter who you were. It mattered that it was an American like mourning and like loss that was like unifying. And I don't think that it was about like pointing the finger and having someone bad to say. I felt like it was like inward, like you have to take care of each other. And that's probably also because I was a kid. I was in like 5th grade, you know. So
I'm glad you got to have that. That's awesome. But I feel like probably depending on your shade of brown, you know, if you're a Sikh or something, it probably wasn't a great time.
No, but I'm mixed, like black and white, just regular mixed.
There comes a time
I'm just saying it wasn't that great
when
for
you
every brown
heed a
person.
certain call.
No, and I wouldn't even say that I would be considered brown. I would be considered black or just mixed. And in the South, sometimes other words. Dude, some dude at the bar called me mulatto, and I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh
Like,
my
fuck,
fucking god. No way. How old was he?
Kidding. He was probably like 40, but he was drunk, and then he was like, "Are you Brazilian?" And I was like, "No, I'm black and white." And he's like, "You mean mulatto?" And I was like, "No." It was pretty funny because he like was so drunk, and his friend was like, I'm sorry, he's not." And like he I don't even think that he said it like in a way that was being like a slur. He said it like in the same way like a lot of black dudes in the South will call me like high yellow.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like the same thing.
Yeah, there are white people who have adopted that terminology as well, and it's always so cringy to me.
I have no idea what that is. I'm just in California.
Dude,
I'm from California.
Matt.
Everybody's a mixture of something.
Matt.
I've never heard these terms.
Matt, I'm telling you. Matt, dude. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Matt, dude, I just had to ask because we had that problem earlier. I gotta take you on a safari through the fucking South one of these days. One of these days, we gotta, like, pay to kennel your pets or whatever and just fly you out to the deep South so we can shoot Matt and Phoebe Tackle the South. And I'm just gonna, like, you know, like, maybe I'll title the maybe I'll do an alternative title. I introduce my Californian friend to the third world country known as the Deep South. And I just, like, take you down some back roads and to some of the major cities, and I show you, like, the utter wealth disparity.
Yeah.
Huh?
And here in their natural habitat is the white trash.
Right, like, dude, the utter, like, the class striation and the racial segregation that still happens. Dude, I live near a town that is generally, like, I would say most of the people living in that town are progressive based on the actual town's voting record. People that live around the town are very conservative on average, but the town is about 45% black. But despite the fact that it's like,
red line?
huh?
Can you see the red line?
Yeah, you can literally see the red line. Yes, that's what I was about to say. It's insane. I don't know how a city can have that much of a kind of person and have them all be in pretty much like 3 places. Like how the fuck? Like, that's insane levels of segregation going back hundreds of years, man. And I see shit like that still going on in the modern day. And people tell me redlining isn't happening anymore. People tell me systemic discrimination isn't a thing. I'm like, well, why are there no black people living in the country South then?
Then why is the other side of the tracks a literal thing?
Right. Like, why do you use that as a turn of phrase if it doesn't mean anything?
It really does.
So it's not that there's no racism in California. I just don't think it meets the standard of like those people are just like mysteriously being hung by trees these days. Wasn't there like a girl recently?
Yes, there was another black person recently in Mississippi. I meant to talk about this. Thank you, Matt, for reminding me, because I'm going to start talking about this, and I think I might do a video essay about it. There are black people going missing and getting hung from trees all over Mississippi across the last year. And, like,
Mississippi's the worst for...
Right, but there for a while, it had that kind of particular type of hate violence had settled down. And in fact, there was a time in Mississippi's history when, thanks to federal pressure, mostly, they were investigating it and that kind of thing. But, like, with these recent incidents, there's this kid that went missing, like, off an island where he was hanging out with a bunch of his, like, white friends and stuff.
Oh, yeah,
like
in South Carolina?
Yeah, what was it? It was Nolan Wells was his name.
South Carolina or North Carolina, yeah.
It was off the coast of Mississippi. It was off the coast of Mississippi. It was down here. It was fucking I don't know, like the autopsy, the findings were like uncertain, I think, but it's yet another case. And then there's been like
nothing to see here, Phoebe.
But then
don't you know there's no foul play?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know. They've got Ben Crump retained as their attorney, and I'm sure he'll turn up anything that there is to be turned up. But
no, you know the thing I hate about people. Some people like Al Sharpton. I really think Al Sharpton does the black community a disservice.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to sound, but I just feel like nothing tends to get done ever. Kind of like that kid that just like mysteriously drowned on an island with nobody.
Hey, that's what she was talking about.
yeah, yeah, I was just talking about the Nolan Wells case
Okay.
where like nobody knows. Huh?
Yeah, I feel like they're almost like preying on these families as like a niche, and nothing actually ever gets done. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel.
Maybe I would. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I feel like Al Sharpton reminds me of like Gloria Allred, like in a different universe.
I know who Al Sharpton is. I don't know that I know who Gloria Allred is.
You'll know her once you see her.
Will I?
She's like a reverend attorney, like cult of personality, ambulance chaser.
Oh, okay. Maybe I do know this person. Okay. Well, that's what I wonder about Ben Crump, too, because it does seem like every time there's a black person that goes missing or gets mysteriously hanged from a tree in Mississippi over the last 30 years, he's the one that ends up being retained as the family's attorney. And there was a time in which... Right. But there was a time in which he was, like, winning a lot of those cases. And I think Matt is kind of maybe right to point out at least a growing pattern of these not going anywhere. But in my opinion... I don't know enough about Ben Crump to say this. I'll have to do some more research to put any weight behind it. But it feels to me, as a white Southerner who has, been curious about this state's history and disgusted more that I learn about it, it seems to me more likely that it is malfeasance on the part of the police. I gotta tell you, I got family members that are white folk who work in the justice system of Mississippi, and it's real bad. Shit's getting dark.
I was gonna say, if you can call it that.
Shit's
If you have some
shit's getting bad.
I don't know. You should make a video about it.
Well,
Have you seen Mississippi Burning, Matt?
Mississippi Burning? No, the movie Mississippi Burning, or it's like a documentary or something.
Oh, you gotta see it. Isn't that the movie?
Is it Mississippi? I think I know what you're talking about. Isn't it with? Yes, I've seen it.
Is that the movie about Med Graver's assassination, or am I thinking of a different movie?
In the not Danny Glover, and it's about Black. Yes. Oh, yeah. God, where's my phone? That's charging. And also, what's the other one I'm thinking of? That's the
Oh. Okay, so it's loosely based on a 1964 FBI investigation of the real-life murders of civil rights workers, Shaney, Goodman, and Schwerner. The film follows two contrasting FBI agents facing violent local hostility in a fictional Mississippi county. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I've seen it. It's a good movie.
It's what I think about, like, Mississippi law. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's a good old boys. It's a good old boys club. It's like there are pockets of places where it's better, but like honestly, the best period for justice in Mississippi was during the time of Reconstruction, when there were some black politicians who were elected, and when the courts kind of like had to be fair, and they had like federal oversight and shit. That was some of the only years where justice could actually be assured in this state.
When there was the Black Caucus.
Huh?
When there was like the Black Caucus, and there was it made for like to establish like rights and citizenship and equal opportunity for Black people, like in Mississippi. I don't know when the Black Caucus was. Hold on, me. Oh, my phone.
I just want to cut in real quick and say that Bugs is absolutely going hog wild in the chat right now. I think he sent 100 memberships, and he sent another $50. He's going insane for you right now.
Thank you, King Bugs, for the, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 memberships that I can see still scrolling through my screen.
See, I was close.
It might be even more. There might be more that just aren't appearing, because, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe even more. But $100 and 90 memberships. King Bugs is the patron saint of the Phoebe Ophi stream and must be enjoying this conversation quite a bit. I appreciate you so fucking much, King Bugs. You are the fucking bee's knees.
MVP for sure.
All hail King Bugs.
All hail King Bugs! Alright, I'm going to turn on members only mode to encourage these people who just got memberships to participate in the chat.
Wait, does that mean I got one?
It is sad that most of these memberships go to racists, assholes, and bots.
I mean,
Oh, we get to get.
It's sad that you can't choose.
right. That is something I should suggest to YouTube. There, maybe like there is a suggest a feature on YouTube somewhere. I forget where exactly it is, but if y'all can track that down, y'all in the chat, y'all listening, anybody, like submit fucking requests for YouTube to allow you to gift a membership to a specific person. Because I know there would be people who are members who would gift other people memberships if they could control who it went to. I've heard so many people say that they won't do it, not because they don't want to support me. Like, they'll support me other ways. They'll give me Cash App, they'll give me Super Chat, but they won't gift memberships because they don't want it to go to trolls, bots, or racists. And I'm like, fuck, man, I wish YouTube would let these people choose who to gift the membership to, dude.
Yeah, so King Bug said he lost somebody today.
I'm sorry.
I'm fucked up today, sorry. I wasn't joking when I said I lost someone today. Death sucks, money is fleeting, our humanity forever. Oh, King Bugs.
What happened, Bugs?
That's horrible, dude. I'm so sorry. I lost my grandmother recently, and I've been grieving that loss, so I know where you're at, and I'm here for you. I hope this conversation is bringing you a bit of cheer. If it's possible for that to happen.
I think it's a good thing to hear people talk about how much we all actually love everyone and how most people love everyone. At least we hope that most people love everyone. And the people that
The statistics back it up.
talk to people like that.
I mean, even a lot of people that think they're conservative or that are, argue for conservative points in one way or another, a lot of these people end up actually being like socially left in important ways or economically left in important ways. And a lot of them actually have a lot of the same motivators that we do and have just been sold a bad bill of sale or haven't been given the right set of arguments. I know, like Taylor's mom, for example, is someone who Taylor used to describe as like someone who should be a Bernie voter, but is like inexplicably a Trump voter. And I feel like there's lots of people like that.
I like to think that with all these MAGA people and these races that, they're just brought up and thinking that was us versus them attitude. And that, the reason we don't have nice things is because of them. And the reason we lose our jobs is because of them. And they're just being preyed on by these politicians because they're poorly educated. And obviously they were just grown up with their fathers and their fathers before them teaching them, yeah, this is the way it is, And it's just a cycle of hatred that needs to be broken. And also it's a class issue, not a race issue, that they need to figure the fuck out and get over it.
I think it's a little bit of both, but what you were saying about older people, there was a visual cartoon, like a satirical New Yorker cartoon I saw when I was really young, and I think it was in an economics class or something. But it was this illustration of this. There was a farmer, like a construction worker and like someone else like
Thank you,
sitting
King
at a table,
Bugs.
and then like a politician at the end of the table, and then like there's like a pile of cookies, and the politician takes like all the cookies and then moves one in front of like, the three people, and they're like, oh man, you better watch out for him, he's gonna take your cookie, like to each of them, and then they all like look at each other like, you know, like it's like, I'm going to take all of the money, I'm going to give you 10%, and you guys got to fight for that 10% because that person's going to take it from you. Not looking at like how much your boss is getting paid and then how much your employees are getting paid.
The unenlightened...
It's less than 10%. That's the
the
sad part.
it's way less than 10%, but the unenlightened will call this attitude class reductionism. But I just want to point out that this argument in this case is being made on my channel not by my white ass, but by someone who is like half and half mixed race. So I don't know, man, at me next time, because like I love this argument, and I mean that, I'm not being sarcastic. Because it's the truth. The fact of it is that transphobia is a problem, and I do want to talk people out of it. But a lot of that conversation of talking them out of it involves pointing out who it is that's funding all of this anti-trans slanted research, the like non-peer-reviewed shit that comes out in creationist journals trying to decry the science of trans people. Who is paying for all the negative market coverage, or the negative media coverage? Like, who is funding these things? And when
did you see that the Dean the debate now?
Dean Withers?
He's getting like super he's getting super like inundated with like someone had like some like essay allegations, and someone took an actual real life 13-year-old girl's Instagram, like a real person, made a TikTok, and then made her like saying that she's saying he did all these things, here are these DMs, and multiple media outlets are like reporting it, and it's like a huge, like, it's like actually funded by, it just made me think about it, because you're saying like who's funding all these like anti-campaigns, or putting all their money into this. Like, who do you think that is? Is anyone that goes against
it's Peter Thiel, it's Elon Musk, it's the billionaire class, it's the rising and escalating power of the billionaire class, and that's why I don't look at it as class reductionism. And if it is, and then maybe class reductionism is the truth, because the real truth of it is that while none of these problems are things that only exist because of capitalism, they are all things which are exacerbated and used by the capitalist class to keep us all collectively in the chains of wages and rent, and
fighting against each other.
Exactly, because as long, yes.
Good. Well, I was just saying, I have a firm belief that the whatever race issues we have is just being used to obfuscate from the people who pay off these politicians to make laws that to keep us fighting between each other, so we don't focus on the actual issues.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like immigration, you know? Where they're saying, like, they're going to take your jobs. They're doing this. And I'm like, every, Guatemalan immigrant that I've ever worked, I worked in a lot of kitchens. I worked in a lot of bars, and a lot of immigrants that work in, like, restaurants will send so much of their money back to their families, to support their families, and they're such family-oriented. Like, Latin culture is just so family-oriented. It's crazy. Like, they don't send their grandmas and grandpas to nursing homes. They keep them at home. They take care of like their families. And I think people being like, oh no, these immigrants are going to come and take your job. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what the whole American dream thing, like, the pie is big enough for everyone, but it's hard whenever there's like 5 people who have like all of it, and then we fight over crumbs.
Right. You know? Yeah. These politicians are just hogging up like 99% of the pie.
No, it's not. It's not even. No. It's not politicians, it's corporations. The politicians, that's the fucked up thing. That's what makes so many people pissed off. And that's what'll make you pissed off and anybody else pissed off that really starts to critically think about this. I'm not saying you haven't, but think about this angle, right? These politicians, in many cases, are bought out for fucking pennies. When you find out how little these motherfuckers are being paid, to sacrifice their morals on the altar of money and capital, it is embarrassing. Let me just ask you guys in this Discord chat real quick, which I think Taylor said she had to go to sleep in the chat.
Yeah.
So she's gone. But let me ask you guys here in this VC, how much would it cost for one of you guys to completely sell out your morals and, let's just say, vote to fund the Iron Dome?
Yeah. Unless I'm like put into that position, I don't think I can comfortably tell you. Because I don't know.
I know that I couldn't. I know that I couldn't because...
Yeah, I wish I'd say that I couldn't, but I'm human. And
well, okay, look, I could do something morally corrupt, but I wouldn't be able to do something blatantly, I don't want to say evil, because I feel like that's just such a word that's like not a real word. It's just too black and white. But I would do.
Okay.
Crime,
okay. Let me.
But I wouldn't do.
Okay. Let me. Hold on.
And I wouldn't sell my soul, like my speaking voice, like who I am.
So put me in this position. My mom's dying. She needs a surgery. We can't pay for it. The insurance won't pay for it. And some corporations, just vote this way, and we'll get your mother the help she needs. I can't say for 100% certain.
Well, if it's America and it's just your vote, then you're going to be pretty safe.
I'm just let's say I was a politician or something. I don't know if I could say 100% that. Oh no, I would never be bought. My mom's just gonna have to die.
That's some John Q question type shit, though.
I know, but
what I'm trying to.
If I was in, you're asking me if I could be corrupted, what would make me
corrupted? We're getting so far off the point, though. Like, the main thing I'm trying to drive at is, you guys obviously have way higher moral standards than the average American politician, so maybe I should have painted a different scenario. But just to stay on track, well, maybe I will go ahead and paint that scenario, because I can stay on track. I'm smart. I can do that. Let's just say
politicians are sellouts, 100%.
Well,
I think they can be
I know,
and sold,
but
and they're purchasable.
Yeah, but let me ask you this: is there a difference? Like, do you think there's a moral difference between someone who, like, sells out that doesn't really that doesn't need to, that would be rich regardless, and someone who comes from poverty and sells out because of the allure of never having to worry about money again? Do you think that there's
definitely?
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to.
Like sex work for survival versus like OnlyFans.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, right? So that's what, the scenario I'll paint for you instead is, let's just say you have a really morally upstanding, progressive American that believes in tax breaks for the working class and tax hikes on the billionaires and the corporations and all the good stuff, right? And they let's just say that they get elected to some we'll just say it's a state senate seat. So it's not national senate, it's state senate. But they get approached by a corporation based in that state. How much do you think it would cost that person? Let's say they come from poverty, they're really progressive, they're done. Let's just take the emergency protocol out of it, but they do come from pretty extreme poverty, but they're very leftist. How much do you think it would cost a person like that, if you had to imagine someone else's morality? How much do you think it would cost the average American in that situation?
200,000.
That's what I would think too, right?
No.
What were you gonna say, Kupo?
Oh no, I was just being like, I think that's way too low. I would think it would depend, like, because I think for someone who maybe has some kind of, because we're all human, right? Like what you were saying, Matt. Like, I think if someone's like, if I can go away, if I can go into a private island, if I could basically like Edward Snowden myself, maybe that price. But I don't think that I would be able to like live with myself.
Right. Well, I think that would be a problem. I think a lot of people have morals and standards until they're faced with consequences of those morals and standards.
Well, yeah, but this isn't like a gun to your head scenario. This is
right.
how much is your soul worth? How much are your morals and your values worth?
Right.
And does it have a price?
I think for the vast majority of people it does, honestly. And like I said just a second ago, me too. It depends on the situation. Would I do it for no reason other than money if I don't need money? I don't think I would. If I was really desperate and somebody was dying and I couldn't, and that was the only thing I could figure out to do, maybe I would, you know?
But I would imagine if you come from poverty and you get yourself to a place on your moral standing of being a leader in your community, and like part of your local government, that you would see that as way more of like, because you're not in it for the money, but you are making a living. But like, would it be like the kind of thing where I'm like, I'm gonna buy my mom a mansion, let her retire, set up my nieces, my nephews, my kids, my grandkids for life? I don't know that seems. I don't think that's necessarily self-serving, but I think you. I don't know. I think that's like the question of like legacy too. And I don't know how I feel about legacy either. I think it's a weird concept, but I don't know. That's a good question, and I think it's a very nuanced answer.
Okay. Can I make my point real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Unless you have something to add, Matt.
No. I think I've made my point.
Okay, so
I was going to ask you the same question, Phoebe.
What?
No, I was just asking you the same question.
What question? I'm lost.
Oh, the question that we're answering. Your question. Oh, no, sorry, go ahead, but make your point. It was about how much can we be bought for?
Oh, yeah, okay, so, yeah, I don't know. My answer would probably be like, my answer right now, I would say like $1 million, because that would be enough for me to, maybe even less, maybe like 500,000. It would have to be at least 500,000, but I would say probably $1 million, because that would be enough for me to buy property wherever I wanted, basically. Not a ton of property, but it'd give me the ability to move into a house in the country in New Mexico, like northern New Mexico, where the climate is better, and there's more abundant water supplies. It would allow me to facilitate a move like that, to set up an outbuilding studio and everything out there, to buy me an RV, but not something that's like super ritzy or whatever, just because I wouldn't want something like that. But it would allow me to basically achieve most of my like financial life goals in one fell swoop. So I would say like $1 million. Well, the fucking insane thing is that if you look into it, what you find out is that state senators, since that's the example we used, are oftentimes bought for, like, as far as like individual like corporations trying to buy their vote, sometimes they are bought for as little as $20,000. Sometimes
that's pretty sad.
I know. That's why I built up to this point so hard. That's why it's taken me so long to get to. 2 million would be my guess, is what Melanie said. But what the reality of it is that when you actually look at the amount of the pie and how it is divvied up, I would say maybe 10 or 20% of the pie goes to the workers, if we're talking like the whole pie. Maybe even less, maybe 8 to 10% actually. And I would say like 20 to 25% goes to the politicians, because it does not cost nearly as much as a lot of people think to buy off a politician. It is the corporations who benefit from this system, and that's why they buy the politicians. But the politicians benefit from corporatism, because they get all of these lush campaign donations. And like, once you're already making a pretty good living, then getting an extra $20,000 all of a sudden, especially for something as petty as just one little old vote. Oh man, $20,000, that's enough to renovate my wife's kitchen. And all of a sudden the math starts adding up. These motherfuckers are parasites, and their parasites for a lot less than you would think. Like a fucking a sex worker who gives a $50 blowjob has more nobility than these fucking politicians. And I say that as a girl who sucked a dick for a shower.
Right. See, what I was thinking is like 20 grand. Okay, I can get a loan, especially if I'm somebody in politics. I can get a loan from the bank to pay for my mother's surgery for like 20 grand. But what I was thinking like, oh, this surgery is going to be like $1 million, $2 million or something. That's what I was thinking.
For sure. That's what I was assuming you meant. And I would assume the same about most people. That it would have to be in the range of millions. But the truth of it is, no. As a state senator, you are often bought for as little as $20,000 or as much as $100,000. But they rarely feel the need to spend any more than that. Sometimes they will, but specifically on like the campaign and advertising and shit like that they orchestrate. Like, so sometimes like these organizations will spend money, that they are spending themselves and orchestrating the expenditure of that never sees, like never trades hands with the politicians basically. But in a lot of cases, they are spending very little to actually buy the votes of the politician themselves. Very often, it's enough for them to get them elected and then to give them some little old kickback for a politician to be bought for life. And that is fucking depressing. People that are willing to do that.
The seat for years and years and years and years and years, and all funded by whatever PACs or lobbies or
look at Mitch McConnell.
Chamber of Commerce. I'm trying to remember what the MLM thing is. Oh, wait, Phoebe, I'll send you a recommendation for a podcast. That's the name's escaping me, but I didn't realize how much different types of corporations and business practices pay politicians directly just to make laws that exempt them from doing stuff, particularly MLMs. And I mean, of course, churches don't pay taxes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Great investment.
Oh, dude, America's the scammy, and I would love that recommendation for sure. And definitely DM it to me or send it in general and tag me or whatever. But I definitely send it to me. But America is like some of my acquaintances, friends over on the Deep Fat Fried channel have made a video. I think it was Scotty from DFF that actually structured the video, but all three of them participated in it, talking about, it was called, I think, America is a Scam or something like that. And it talks about this and some of the other things we've talked about this stream, lobbying and shit, and just how, like, the more you look at it, there are basically no other countries that are as scam friendly as America, but also as legitimate on the world stage. Like, Russia is as scammy as America, but Russia is like a pariah state. North Korea is scammier than America, but they're a pariah state. I can think of a number of places like that, but America is pretty much the only country with legitimacy on the world stage of any scale that is as scammy as it is. And it's too
because
fucking...
we make it illegal.
Yeah, because things that are fundamentally illegal in other places are just legal here. Like MLMs, for example. Like, how the fuck is that fucking legal? How the fuck is Avon's business model possible?
I mean, it wasn't, and for a while there, I'll have to send you a thing for the podcast, and like how people can be paid and bought, and also churches not paying taxes, being able to have like exploit label for-profit prisons. Don't even get me started on the for-profit prison system. It's fucking crazy. America is scammy, but it's all under the guise of like, that's legal. Technically, that's legal.
Yeah, legal slavery. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I understand like how like certain companies can provide like Securus and Tellink and like certain like the corporations that make like school lunches that sell to prisons and like those types of businesses that are just like still General Mills, still Kellogg. Like it's actually fucking crazy. I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I hit her, Phoebe. Kenny Bugs donated $50 more, and
hell yeah,
10 more memberships
Thank you, King Bugs, for the additional memberships, for the fucking extra 50. That is so fucking kind of you. I appreciate you so much. You are awesome. Thank you, dog. And yeah, I was just, when you were talking about the private prison industry, like, it reminded me of this line from the Tupac song Changes. It's 4 lines, I guess, specifically. And although it seems heaven sent, we ain't ready to see a black president. It ain't a secret, don't conceal the fact. The penitentiary's packed and it's filled with blacks. And that's like, not only was that true in the 90s, and such an issue that people were talking about overcrowding, private prisons, the racist nature of these things, and everything else. Right, all the way back then. But it's continued to, like, grow as an issue. It's so embarrassing to me that, like, we have not managed to evolve much on any of this, really.
I don't think we will.
I think we will.
Until people recognize that they're just being... I mean, a lot of people are waking up to this, but more people need to wake up to the fact they're just being used as a ping pong to obfuscate that they're just... that these corporations, want to get laws passed to benefit them. And they'll use your hatred, they'll use your confusion, they'll use your sadness and misery to get you out of the way to do those things.
But then that's, like, kind of crazy that people can still deny blatant, like, I mean, like, after Jim Crow, like even acknowledging that, like, the way that some laws are structured, and the whole thing with Ronald Reagan and how you criminalize crack versus blow, and, like, to say that these things aren't designed to end, like, recidivism, how, like, rehabilitation quotes, you guys can see my fingers, but, like, all those things, and how it's for profit, and how, like, I don't know, it's I mean, in America, like, I think the percentage of our population versus the percentage incarcerated is, like, something crazy. And people will say, like, okay, like, you're saying, like, obfuscation. Like, this person's a felon. They're irredeemable. This person can't vote. They can't participate in these things. It's, like, it's really fucked up how, like, I don't know. I think, like I said, I don't think anyone is irredeemable. I really don't. Do I think that means, like, you absolve yourself of all of your crimes once you, like, serve your time or anything? But I don't. I think that people can be redeemed and they can earn things back. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't think America does that.
No, we definitely don't.
I mean, even if they could, I also feel like everybody's just so divisive. Any attempt to redeem oneself, a lot of people feel like it's not really worth it because no matter what I do, I won't be forgiven.
Yeah, so I might as well give them what they think.
Right, but that's something we can change culturally. That's something we can change with policy too. Like, that's, like, for example, a lot of the Nordic countries and other countries that I don't know as much about their systems, like, I think Uruguay has a pretty low recidivism rate, but there's, like, lots of countries on this planet that have a way lower recidivism rate than we do. You guys know what recidivism is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Like the revolving door.
Right, yeah, exactly. And a lot of countries have way better recidivism rates than we do, meaning that a lot of people do feel like they can be rehabilitated and often successfully are. And I think it's something that we can affect through policy. The way American prisons are designed and ran is fundamentally anti-human. I worked for 6 months as a prison guard in Missouri back in 2020 during the pandemic, and also coincidentally for a couple months during the George Floyd riots, because I started my job at the beginning of the year. Yeah, I was a CO. Yeah, I know. I'm a class trader.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
No, I consider COs more like security.
Yeah, well,
And, like,
you should consider them more like cops, because it kind of is the same kind of fucked up shit, honestly.
Well, I mean,
Having,
as far as like having a gun.
yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's not like you don't have the same ability to end lives, which is the main distinction. But, like, I saw depravities in there that made it impossible for me to keep working there, because I was already hard left by that time. It was just like, I was living with my mom after the fallout from my last living situation. I had moved back in with her, and she was like, you gotta get a job, and you should really try to get a job at this prison, because it's the best job around here. And I was like, okay, because I had always taken her advice on that kind of thing, and I was like, not gonna defy my mother, who I'm living with and dependent on, until I get back on my feet, right? So, and like I said, this is back in 2020, but I didn't think anything would come of it, and I applied to a bunch of other places, had some interviews, but then I actually got an interview with the prison. So I ended up, you know, I had already basically quit weed from not being able to buy any, and so I just continued not smoking, ended up getting the job. It was like 2 months of training, and then I, huh?
No, come here. Get in your kennel. I'm sorry, my dog just came in and it's raining.
Oh,
And
you're
I don't
fine.
wanna,
What kind of dog you do?
I have 2 mutts. Got a cat.
But,
2 months.
so, no, you're fine. I just don't want to lose my train of thought. Fuck. So, prisons.
We're talking about your job as a CO in 2020.
Right. So I worked there for like 6 months, and 2 months of that was training. 4 months of that was me, like, you know, like actually working the job. And I, at first was kind of able to cope with it somewhat. And then the George Floyd riots and protests and like movement kind of popped off, and the tension between like CO and like inmate became very, very palpable, and like people started just doing monstrous things to inmates in retaliation for their escalating tension, which often didn't amount to much, but like it was like a moment of real desperation where the where basically all the offenders could sense that there was a real like pervasive sense of social change that was leaning against corrections and police, rightly so, obviously. And the fact that we have this oppressive fucking prison system meant that the already existing tensions kind of escalated to a fever pitch. Probably the most severe incident I can remember during this time. There are 2 that come to mind. One was when an inmate that was being moved to a shower, because I was a tower officer in an ADSEG unit, at least like, this was when I was a tower officer in the full ADSEG unit. So it was like nothing but people who were...
Like administrative segregation?
Yeah, exactly. So that just means like you're basically, like it's basically solitary confinement. It's fucking a war crime if you do it to prisoners of war, but for some reason we do it in American prisons. It's awful shit. But you have to be like escorted to the shower. You have to be like put in handcuffs to walk anywhere around on the floor. You're given very limited quote unquote yard time, and the yard is like little bigger than a dog kennel. It's awful. But there was somebody who was being escorted to a shower from their cell, and they were like 10 foot away from the shower, and they just leapt into action. This inmate did. I'm not sure exactly what the plan was, because the Sally Port door wasn't open, meaning the door that could lead out to the outside. Certainly I was not going to be convinced to open it, you know, especially because this person was like somebody who was generally kind of dangerous even before like tensions escalated. He's just kind of a person that was kind of like known for like fighting people at random, and other inmates, officers, all kinds of people. So it wasn't necessarily like out of character, but he like
Was
somehow...
it just one person taking them?
No, that was the crazy fucking thing. It was like 3 people in there. 2 of them, one on either arm, because he was known for being like combative, like I said, with like pretty much anybody. And then there was another person who was attending, basically. And like this person, like he leapt into action, leveraged the position of one officer's arm to like hip toss him, basically. But then one of the other officers like swept his legs and like dropped him like fucking 180 onto the floor, hit his head bounced on the concrete. And by this time I was already like, calling out over the radio for assistance to that cell, because I wasn't sure what direction it was going to go, if he was going to jump back up, which he did. It continued, so the other person had to jump in. But even though that person was probably, an example of someone who probably does need to be in some kind of like, I don't like how American prisons work, but there are communities that exist in places like Denmark, for example, prison communities that exist to keep people segregated away from the general population who are, for whatever reason, like unpredictably violent, or who have things that cannot be rehabilitated out of them or whatever.
Good part of society.
Right. So, and I think that he probably should have been in a situation like that. I think that's one of the reasons why he got into so many fights, was because of the conditions of American, imprisonment. But I felt for him in that moment, like, despite that, because, it reminded me of when I fell on the ice one time, and that exact thing happened. It was like someone swept my legs out from under me. I just literally and the entire weight of my body pretty much helped my head hit that pavement, and sure enough, when I went to the hospital, I had a concussion. So I was just like, oh. And then there was another time, like 2 weeks later, where there was this dude that was being uncompliant, and one of the floor officers that was working the unit that day didn't want to be fucked with trying to assemble the CERT team, the people who were like the prison SWAT, basically. So instead of doing that, which would have been normal procedure for somebody that's like being combative and doesn't want to get out of their cell, when you like open the door and try to come in and get them, instead of doing the normal procedure, he decided to just like empty a canister of OC vapor into the cell, which is like just a sight of gassing someone to death, basically. And so after the dude, started convulsing and passed out, he was taken out of the cell and brought into compliance, you might say, and had to go to the infirmary and all this other shit. And the dude talked about it so callously, I wanted to fucking throw up in my mouth. And, it wasn't like 2 weeks later that I ended up resigning, because I was like, this is fucked up. This whole system is fucked up. Floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
I feel like if you were already in a place that was not the best, and then you're put into a place like administrative segregation, it would do that to anybody, let alone someone who's like already liable and like on the edge.
Oh yeah. Like, violent incidents happen way more in administrative segregation units because of the conditions of that type of confinement. It makes people more likely to be violent.
I have had a really good time talking with you guys, Ben. Thanks for letting me come on and talk. I have to go to work in 4 hours, so I'm gonna try to go to bed.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Alright, bye bye. Get some rest.
Yeah, I'll message you that podcast, and I'll stay in the Discord.
Sounds good.
I'll catch you the next time that you're on. This was really fun.
All right.
Yeah, thank you for talking with me. I enjoyed talking, and if you would like to join future conversations whenever, if you see me live in here and you want to join up, just join up Stream Guest Vet, and whenever there's an opportunity, I'll bring you in.
Okay.
Alrighty.
I hope you have a good night. Sweet dreams.
I hope you have a great night too. Sweet dreams as well. Street dreams.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Who had the mind to disagree?
I didn't even know I was subscribed to whoever this is. What's up, Dare Lord, or what? Dear Lord, real? Now I'm a member because of some rando. You are a member because of some rando, because I was getting hella gifted memberships. I was. We've been streaming for 3 hours. Can you guys believe that? Would you guys tolerate a restart of the stream? Because I think that would be valuable.
Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. Y'all come back in a minute.